Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to today's outstanding new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mr. Boomstick XL. And as you can tell in my excited voice, there is a lot to talk about. We're going to be opening the show with some incredible Fable news to the delight of the other host of the show. You know him as the cog that keeps the Xbox Factor podcast running, Zemi Games. Actually, I should call him Chef Zemi Games. What's going on, dude? Welcome to the program.
Fable. Yeah, no, I'm super excited to talk about Fable. I'm just super excited to be on the Xbox Factor podcast, man. We missed last week, very unfortunate, but we, I guess we, in a way, we made it up yesterday, right? Talking about the Halo delays and all that different stuff. But yeah, man, super excited to be here. Can't wait to jump into these topics, man.
Yeah, speaking of yesterday's show, if you are new to the channel and you wanted some really honest, thought-provoking conversation regarding 343's delayed Halo Infinite, you should definitely check out yesterday's program. It is currently live on VOD on my YouTube channel, and it was nearly not only a 2.5-hour show, but it was a show dedicated to Halo. And of course, there was some negative thoughts and opinions, but there were some, of course, very valid reasons for the negativity. And it was a very thought-provoking show. So if you missed it, man, just go check that out after this show. But let's continue with, of course, the rest of the panel. Now, this is a gentleman that I think has really taken on the words of content creation to the 10th power. And I'm talking about Archimedes. He put out a video today that I think everyone needs to watch. In fact, it is so good. It is so perplexingly thought-provoking that I'm going to make it a topic on today's show simply because is there a messaging marketing issue at Microsoft? Well, we're going to break that down later on. Archimedes, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the compliments. It's great to be on the show. I missed it last week. I think we all did. And I'm definitely speaking for the chat. I can see that already. No, we have some awesome topics to talk about, and yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, again, it's gonna be a lot of fun, and as a matter of fact, if you're wondering, you see, this has been a busy week for gaming, and more importantly, a busy week for Double Barrel Gaming. This is my 4th day in a row streaming live, and of course, I will round off the 5 in a row stream, something I don't do very often, but we'll be doing Breakfast with Boom tomorrow, and tomorrow's show is looking like it's going to be fire from start to finish. So if you're interested, tune in tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard for the new episode of Breakfast with Boom. But of course, let's continue. On loan from the PlayStation Nation, someone that will be joining me tomorrow on BWB to talk about the new Spider-Man Miles Morales information that I've posted. I see the eyes blinking. Yes, we have confirmation that it is a full game, but we'll break that down tomorrow. Welcome to the show, my brother.
I thought it was Breakfast with Boom. I bought my coffee.
Nice.
I brought my oatmeal.
Excellent.
I brought my depression. It's going to be great today, guys. You've seen Angry Bit yesterday. Now you're going to get Depressed Bit today. It's it's great. Hey, listen, and here's just like a thought for everybody before it's a plug. It's a plug, but please allow
plug away. This is what we do on the show.
We did the trophy room last night. I thought it was fantastic. I want everybody take a look at it. Bad Big Games on YouTube, podcast services. I think we talk about the Halo situation through the PlayStation perspective, through the Microsoft perspective, as a fan perspective. I want to know how, because it's an Xbox show, how you thought we did. Okay. And then rate us 5 stars. But like, how we did. I think we did rather well. Like, I think it was a really good, constructive talk. And then I was sad today because today is the 5th anniversary of my grandpa's death. So if you're mean to me in the comments, just think about that and then think how awful of a person you are. And then I get the Spider-Man news, and it gives me like a hope that maybe there's a deity of some sort because like it's Miles Morales, my favorite superhero.
Yes.
It's a weird bit of like boat of emotions. I got my oatmeal here. I'm ready to talk Xbox. Let's talk Fable. Oh my God, there's Fable news.
Yeah, Fable news to talk
right?
about. Yeah. So listen, listen. Once again, thanks for being here. Of course, our sincere condolences. No one likes to lose a loved one, and of course, obviously, he's passed. And it's we say anniversary. It's not something that we want to celebrate, but it's hard. It's definitely hard. But we're glad that you're here, and we hope that we can bring you up.
Thanks,
with the
man.
stuff that we're going to talk about, because that's what we do on this program. Now, next up, you know him as the best voice in gaming. Someone I think should be definitely voicing a video game character in the future. He's our resident chainsaw cutting, Gears of War playing professional. Please welcome Crispy Bomb.
Boom! You got the crispy truth in the room. Let's go, baby.
Yes, well, listen, thanks so much for being here. As a matter of fact, I believe this is your first time on the Xbox Factor podcast, so welcome.
And I might not have great things to say about Xbox because I tell it like it is, and that's
listen. You know what? This is why this channel and these shows do so well, is because even though we're Xbox fans, I think it's indicative of being a true fan to praise them when there's something to be excited about, and when they do something where you feel that they made a mistake, where they trip, instead of condoning them and doing what a lot of people on the internet does, and that's just poop all over them, is to constructively break down why this happened and what we want them to do better. And that's what we're going to do today on the second topic of the show. But I want to get next to our special guest. Now, he is relatively new to podcasting. As a matter of fact, I just found out that his program that's on YouTube, on his YouTube channel, is only 3 weeks old. And I want everyone to check it out, because I had the extreme pleasure of listening to it. As a matter of fact, this week while I was platinuming Ghost of Tsushima, and it really was well done. And that's why I invited him to the program. Flap, welcome to the show, my friend.
Oh, thanks, Boom. I appreciate the kind words. It's absolutely great to be here. Such a privilege to be on a guest on your show amongst your esteemed panel. I'd like to say hi to the panel. I'd like to say hi to the chat as well. Very new to the podcasting and live streaming game. It's a very, very, it's been a very welcoming community, actually. I was a little bit nervous when I first came in and wasn't quite sure what to expect. But, there's obviously plenty of fanboys and things out there. But this Xbox community, they've kind of welcomed me with open arms. And I'm really grateful for the positive feedback that I've had and the views and the likes and things like that. So now I'm really excited. Want to see how far I can take the channel. And, who knows? The sky's the limit.
Yeah, well, listen, it's great to have you, and obviously we're going to talk about your show at the end of today's program during the outros, because I want to get people to check out your show. One of the bigger things for me as a content creator who has multiple shows and a ton of guests is to lift up others first. Everyone knows who Boomstick is, and that's fine, but to get new people like yourself and Archimedes and of course Zemi and Crispy and Mr. Badbit to be raised up in the community is even, for me anyway, more important than just you having you guys on the show. So we're going to talk about that towards the end. But what I want to do is I want to get into topic number one. And of course, we're going to be talking about Fable. And heck, why the hell not? Because it's been confirmed. But before we start that, I have to thank a very good friend and a very generous friend of the show. Robert Jones drops a very outstanding $15 super chat and says this: from yesterday, Microsoft can drop the console price because Game Pass income is coming from two sources outside of console, PC and cell phones. Xbox is only dependent on consoles, but using consoles to push Game Pass. This isn't Robert Jones. First of all, that is a fantastic way of actually positioning that conversation, because you're right. You are 100% right. As a matter of fact, I think, and again, this is just a theory that I have no proof other than what I feel in my gut, and that is one of the things that Microsoft can do, besides having a stout Game Pass list of titles available at launch thrown in there for all their subscribers to play, is to beat Sony in price. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. I think that they are positioned both in power, which we know that their console is the more powerful box. And we're going to actually talk about that in the second story, which we're starting to hear more rumblings that PlayStation 5 is having some difficult times running higher settings. And that may be a problem if they're going to be charging $500 for a less powerful box. Now, getting back to the price, Microsoft is, as a company, as a full-on company that's worth $1.7 trillion, can be viciously ruthless if they want to and undercut Sony. Again, I said this before and I'll say it again. This could be a complete roles reversal of 2013 when Microsoft got out on stage. They talked about TV, and they've launched a box at $500. And then what did Sony do? We know for an absolute fact that they were going to release the PlayStation 4 at $500 with the camera, and they pulled that from the box at the last minute, and they beat Microsoft in what? Power? Yes, it was more powerful console. That's a confirmed fact, and they beat them in price. And right now, if Microsoft wants to kind of get revenge, if you will, they can do that. Now, I don't know whether that's going to be $25, $50, or $100, but they are positioned to do it. But let's get into Fable. Now, obviously, we got the confirmation that Playground Games was making Fable, the worst kept secret in gaming, but it was nice for the confirmation. And one of the, I think the biggest and best ways you could have closed out the show, which they did, is with that Fable trailer. And it was only a minute and some change. It wasn't long, but it spoke tremendous volumes. And in an article that I pulled from Windows Central from last week, Matt Booty mentioned that Playground's attention to detail and passion for the franchise has impressed him, and that everything he's seen so far indicates it will be a very high quality release. Now, this is great news to hear, because one of the running narratives and themes when it comes to being an Xbox fan is A, Microsoft has no games, and B, their first-party games are not on the level of, let's say, Sony's. And you know what? There it has been for years some truth to that. Now, I'm not saying a game like Sea of Thieves is any less important than The Last of Us 2. Because if there are two games telling two different stories through two different visual lenses, and I'm going to be honest with you. One does not make it better than the other simply because one is more realistic and it's an over-the-shoulder, third-person perspective, story-driven, adult-themed content type of game. Now, granted, you know me. You know how I feel about those games. I freaking love them. But a lot of people like Sea of Thieves for the exact opposite. It's cartoony. It's whimsical. It's fun. It's like... It's like a pirate movie. So just
7 out of 10. Too much water.
Oh, there you go. 7 out of 10. Too much water. There you go. Coming from a PlayStation guy. Well done there, Jeff.
Okay, dude. I'm re-addicted to Sea of Thieves. Thanks to Luke Lord, that son of a gun.
Yeah,
I'm all in.
I've seen you guys have been posting some stuff, man.
My God.
Yeah.
He posted one thing. It blew up. Like the actual Sea of Thieves, like the Sea of Thieves Twitter retweeted it. Bonkers.
Yeah,
He's gonna
and
be
you know what?
Next week, and I'm gonna be jealous.
Yeah, well, listen, as a matter of fact, let's talk about Luke for a second before we continue. Obviously, he's not here, and he has been a staple in this program for months, and we miss him tremendously. He is, obviously, his profession is he's a teacher. He's an educator, and they're back in school, so he had to go back to being a teacher, and what's going to happen is when he's off, he has already promised that he'll, of course, be here when he can. And we're going to probably have him on a couple of times in some of the evening programs in the next couple of weeks at Primetime Gaming. We'll have him on as a guest so he can get out there and still have fun podcasting. But he's still, we miss him. But Luke, if you're listening, brother, great work on your latest interview. And of course, being shouted out by Rare with your Sea of Thieves post. I thought that was great. But I want to bring Matt Booty back into the conversation because he had some things to say, which I thought was really interesting. He says this: with any kind of franchise like that, where you've had existing versions, there's always that balance between what you're going to bring forward and what stands up and what you want to add that's new. He continues with this. It's like the challenge of making a new Star Wars movie, the stuff that everyone wants you to bring along, but you've also got the responsibility to take it to new places, and I trust Playground has a good vision to bring that forward. Now, look, this is exciting news and should have everyone happy to know that the game is being developed with both classic and new ideas on how to bring this franchise back from the dead that last saw release over a decade ago, where it came out obviously the official release of Fable was October 26th, 2010. So the franchise right now is 10 years old, and it's about time to see resurgence. Now, Zemi, I want to go to you first because one of the things I pulled, one of the emotions that I pulled from this particular article that was extremely well written from Windows Central was that they're going to bring both classic Fable, which is something that you have been banging a drum on, and a new way to tell the story, which is what I want. So it seems like the peanut butter and jelly factor is going to be coming to fruition. Are you happy to know that they respect and actually treasure what Fable meant to older fans?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Like as soon as we saw that trailer with that fairy getting demolished by that amazing, beautiful bullfrog wearing the tuxedo. I mean, he didn't actually have a tuxedo, but he should have, anyway, it doesn't matter. What does matter is that, as soon as I saw that trailer, I automatically saw that humor and that quirky British humor that Fable does so well and has done so well for a very, very, very long time is going to be included into that game. And then as well as the whimsical, magical, fantasy universe that Fable's known for as well. So that gave me a lot of reassurance, in the game. And, like what you were saying, mixing the classic with the new, mixing the peanut butter with the jelly, it seems like they have a good path. They know the sandwich that they want to make. They just need to make sure that they put in the right amount of peanut butter and the right amount of jelly, because too much of either one could just screw up the entire sandwich, right? And I think that that's very, very important. Balancing new and old together. But for me personally, what I look at whenever I see, them wanting to add in new things is, I don't want them to add in new features into the game just because they're new. I want to see them add in new features of the game because they improve the game. I don't want them going through and being like, let's just add this and add this so people can say that we did something. Right? I want actual change that really impacts the game and makes me say, man, I can't believe, Lionhead didn't put this into the game, the first time. Right. And I think a very, very important distinction should be, I remember, I don't remember if anyone on this panel said it, but I remember some people were referring to the next Fable game as they wanted it to be like a Witcher. And I once again absolutely was that you? How dare you, Boxenberg? But I absolutely disagree with that. I think Fable is Fable, and it should be Fable. Now, if they want to take a few elements from the Witcher game that they think has a place in the Fable universe, I would be absolutely perfectly fine with that. But at the end of the day, I want there to be no mistake that we're playing Fable, and I think Playground Games is definitely really on that track. And I really like how Matt Booty said what he said and how he constructed, I guess that, public message and that they are definitely looking at, bringing the classic in, but then also mixing it up and not making it just like every other Fable game. So I definitely appreciate what they're doing.
I mean, listen, and that's a great point. Again, I thought for sure that you were going to appreciate that particular aspect of this story, because I think it's important to a lot of players who enjoy the British humor that comes along with the three Fable games before it. And again, I know you want to kick some chickens. I know you saw that when I showed some artwork for potentially what Fable's going to look like, there were plenty of cages where you wanted chickens in those cages, which seems a little sadistic, but it's fine because it's gaming.
I have graduated from wanting to kick chickens. Now I just want to imprison the whole lot of them. Like, I want to go around like all of Albion. I don't even think it's called like Albion anymore, but I want to go around the entire map and just collect chickens, throw them into a cage on my back, take them to my home, and put them into a bigger cage and just collect and imprison chickens. That's what I want to do. I've graduated.
Well, listen, it's good to
That's
good that
terrifying.
you understand.
Nobody else is concerned.
I mean, only chickens.
The
Only
silence
chickens,
is
though. No
deafening,
one else.
and it's telling as well.
It is also very telling. Listen, Joe, before I bring you into the conversation, I just want to read a super chat that came in. First of all, Face 23 BKY drops a very generous and outstanding $15 super chat. And he says, at Boom, which is what he's talking to me, you want to talk about rumor and speculation, cool, but don't make it seem like it's true. Remember, no 4K on PS5 for Far Cry 6. That has been proven false. Well, here's the thing. When you say proven false, that's implying that somehow I lied. And I showed exactly what it said. That depiction wasn't me hypothesizing. No,
I got a
4K
question for you.
60. Sure.
Yeah, because I thought Ubisoft came out even and said that PS5's no 4K 60. That they retracted that statement.
Well, no, I did a story going back where I had the actual. It said only on Xbox One and Xbox One X Series X.
Yeah.
Yep. So I listen. I didn't see the retraction from Ubisoft, but I appreciate the super chat. And again, before you make a comment like that, and again, I appreciate the support, dude. You got to wait for me to do the story because I'm not making any false statements. If someone's writing the story, which another one broke today on Tom's Guide, talking about how the PlayStation 5 is struggling to run games in ultra settings. That's I'm reading verbatim. I'm not making that up. I'm not pulling it out of my ass just to get
information changes, especially in COVID countries. So like it's bound to, those things are bound to change. Give us a break.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, it is what it is. But once again, thank you for the support and of course the super chat. I definitely appreciate that. But Mr. Bed, but I want to bring to reel this back into, of course, the topic of Fable. And it's a big topic because it is a game that everyone has been asking for. It is a franchise that is like Halo, like Gears of War, like Forza. It is a franchise that is indicative of Xbox. And if they can bring this back, and I believe that they can, because there's been a lot of detractors, Joe, who said, well, wait a second, they just make driving games. What the hell do they know about making an open world action game? And that could have been said for the Killzone developer, right? When they brought out Horizon Zero Dawn, what the hell? They just make first-person shooters. They can't make an open world.
You can say that about Sucker Punch, right? Like, what does this Western team know about? I'll get into it right here. Like, you can say that perfect example, Sucker Punch, right? Well, let's bring PlayStation in this for a second. This is a Western studio, and I always saw the criticism or concern rather of what does this Western studio think they can do with a Japanese setting, and how Japanese audiences are going to
There you go.
How are they going to take a Western studio doing this? Look at Ghost of Tsushima, one of the only Western games to have a perfect score in Famitsu. So yeah, what Matt Booty says, he's supposed to say that. I think he's saying that right now because Halo's on fire, and rightfully so. They should be trying to like see whatever like chapter kind of works for them and kind of stick to that book. But in terms of Fable, I have complete trust in Playground. I've been on record throughout this generation saying that the best studio Microsoft had, but this is before they started acquiring everything, was Playground Games, right? Like the Horizon series is honestly the only Forzas I even try out. They're just so much fun. They're so great. And they're also very accurate into which the areas that they're trying to represent, whether that be Australia or UK, and now Albion, which is the same thing. So awesome. And I think what I hope to see from them and Microsoft in general, and I think, us Xbox folks will understand this. I hope they start touting the creators behind this. Like, it's cute that Matt Booty's talking, but I want to know who's creating this game. I want to hear from the creative director. Enough of Matt Booty, enough of Aaron Greenberg, enough of Phil Spencer. I want the way PlayStation people know, people like Cory Barlog, right? Like, how they know Neil Druckmann. They know these huge creators behind their games that they love. I want that for Xbox. And there's no reason why they can't be like that. Because I think what VJ was saying yesterday about like how Halo Infinite feels more like a production of a just a produced, like machine, and it doesn't have, that personality behind that. Playground has a huge opportunity because they have so much goodwill of like, let's put a face behind this company so that people could come to this person and talk to. And I think the closest thing Xbox had was like a Ron Ferguson, right? Because he was a community guy first. So I want to hear from them more than anything. But what I want from Fable, and I think Zemi hit it on the head here as well, is that like, show me how you get Fable, and then show me how you get how it can evolve. Because that's the biggest task that this game has, right? It's about showing it can't be a Witcher style game. It has to be Fable. It has to be its own DNA. But at the same exact time, not be ignorant to the fact that a Witcher game came out. So it can't be a by the book Fable game, because a by the book Fable game worked in 2006 ain't gonna work in 2020. So that's what I would like to see. Yeah, that's what I would like to see from this game. And again, let's start hearing the developers start talking about these games.
Joe. That's actually a great point. That is a great point. I think it's something that would behoove Microsoft as a first party dominant publisher to have people from their first party get out there and be not only. I mean, again, it's great to hear from Aaron Greenberg. It's fantastic to hear from Matt Booty. And of course, it's always great to hear from Phil. And he's very candid. He's very, very quick to do an interview. It's great to hear from Larry Herb, but it would be great for the fans to have a face to go with said developer. I think you're right on to something.
As the PR guy, it helps the Microsoft brand as well when you're thinking about it, because if we're throwing every problem at Phil Spencer, and Phil Spencer or Aaron Greenberg, whoever, has to address that, it just looks like Xbox as a whole messed up something. Like, again, like Halo Infinite, right? Like, everybody's like demanding answers from Phil and Aaron, and not so much like the development team of who's actually making this game. So like, I think it would help Microsoft so that like when there's a situation where the kitchen's on fire, people will know who to turn to, that they're turning to their own community, and rather than the community at large. So
to be honest, Boom, does that not? I mean, that kind of feeds into the video Archimedes made earlier, where he said that.
You know what we'll do? We'll definitely come back around to that. Speaking of Flat, let's bring you into the conversation. Obviously, you are from the other part, the other side of the lake, and you obviously again are an Xbox centric channel, though you do talk about other things. For you personally, what Matt Booty said, did that resonate with you at all concerning, because there has been a lot of real concerns as to what this Fable was going to be, and was it going to be a completely reboot, forget the old series ever existed, or was there going to be some charm and humor from your side of the world that the game is known for?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Matt Booty said was quite formulaic, to be honest, but I think it absolutely needed to be said to allay any fears, like you say, from Fable fans, that it was actually going to take a completely different direction. I agree with Zemi. You know, this game absolutely had to be made by Playground Games.
Yeah.
You know, they've proven themselves in the open world gaming market. They are from Britain, so they you know, they're going to get that sort of whimsical English humour from the roots. And it was the trailer that actually did it for me. We got to the end of the showcase and I was thinking, oh, we need Fable. We absolutely need Fable. And then within 3 seconds of that trailer coming on, it's just like, settle down. And I absolutely loved the trailer. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was everything it needed to be, actually, because it ticked many boxes. It kind of showed us the new a little bit, because obviously, you know, there's a really bright, fresh color gamut. Never had a fairy, I don't believe, in Fable games before. And when she flew over the fish, I don't know if you noticed, the fish, it sort of split into lots of smaller fish as well.
Yes.
So it looks like there's going to be some sort of interaction with the environment and stuff. And then obviously the Toad section, you know, it was everything I wanted it to be. It proved that they were going to have the humor in there. It panned up and we saw Albion, and it looked like we saw Bowerstone and Fairfax Castle.
Yes.
And that was a nod to obviously all of the fans out there and stuff. And I think that if Playground Games are going to do this justice, they need to bring in new game mechanics. I think they need to have a truly open world, you know, huge open world, and work out how you're going to traverse around that world, different fighting mechanics and stuff, and just refresh this sort of the older elements of those games, but keep it in the lore, keep the same character design, things like that. Really, I think Playground Games, if anyone can do it, it will be Playground Games.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100%. I think they have the talent. They've brought in a lot of developers who have major experience with the open world, and I think we're going to be tremendously impressed. You know, Crispy, I want to bring you into the conversation, but let me just catch up on some of the super chats. First of all, Sin Vendetta, a very good friend of the show and a very generous friend for that. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, just a reminder, that Mortal Shell is being released next Tuesday on August 18th. Is anyone besides me planning on playing this at launch? You know what, dude? I am so out of the loop, and that's surprising. I don't even know what the hell Mortal Shell is.
Oh,
is
it's Dark Souls last game. So you're gonna want to check out my channel next week. That's all I got.
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest with you. There, you're gonna be disappointed. This in Vendetta. I have to see it first. If it's too soulsy, probably not, because I suck at those games, man. There's just something about like Neo is, for instance, a game that I should have been terrible at, and I was actually quite good. Demon Souls, Dark Souls. I don't know why. I just cannot bring myself around to learn the mechanics enough to not die 5,000 times. I don't know. But real quick, we have VJ, a good friend of the show. As back, he was on yesterday's Halo podcast. He drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, "Hey, Boom, thank you for the positivity and joy you bring to this community. Long may it continue." Oh, dude, thank you so much for the compliment. And of course, the super chat. And Sean Carpenter says here, is not only here, he drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "Fable, Halo, and Stalker 2, the hype is real." Oh, yes. I'm listen, we're all disappointed about Halo, but let's not forget that there is a ton of games releasing this fall that you're going to be able to play on your Series X. And you know what? Again, we're all disappointed. Sure, we all wanted to play Halo, but I'm actually glad it's delayed because it needed to be. But Crispy, bringing Fable back into the conversation, this is a title that needed to show up on the July showcase, and it did. And it did in a big way because it did that one more thing that we were all hoping. And, of course, Matt Booty brought it into the conversation, and it impressed a lot of people. It actually ticked a lot of boxes for people concerned about the direction of Fable. Was it going to be too serious? Was it going to be the Witcher Fable, or was it going to retain some of the classic humor that we all know it has? And what were your takeaways from that particular 1-minute video? But more importantly, does anything that Matt Booty said during this interview resonate with you as a fan of the series?
Well, I will just say this. I love when people don't take my points. It's always great. Did
I steal them? What did I steal from you this week?
No, nobody stole anything.
Oh,
so that's the
good.
beauty of it. So let's call a spade, and Playground Games has never made a bad game. And they actually revamped the series and did it in an arcadey style that is absolutely incredible to this day. And people are still enjoying Forza Horizon 4, and they absolutely love the game. And not everybody's a sim racer, and you needed it. You absolutely needed it.
Right.
And they made a magical racing style arcade sim, arcade racing style, and it was just incredible. Now, I will go and say this: you need new blood on old IPs.
Yes.
Okay, you absolutely need it, and for Playground to be doing it is even better, which is incredible. But they also haven't lost their way, and you clearly saw it in just that minute and a half, we'll call it. And what's glorious is that I have experience with this. And you brought up Rod Ferguson, correct, Mr. Badbit?
Yeah.
Okay. And he originally worked on the Gears franchise, correct?
Oh, that is correct, sir.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to tell you is that Rod Ferguson and Ryan Cleveland have been working on Gears for years. All right. Ryan Cleveland basically designed most of the multiplayer through the Gears franchise. Okay. Rod Ferguson basically helped produce with Cliffy B the actual game itself. All right. You needed new blood. The game is totally different. It is so much better. Mm-hmm. These guys that are working on the game are playing the game. Yeah. They enjoy the game. Rod was done with the game. He was done. He was more focused on the Mantinis, bro. All right. All right. And Ryan didn't know how to approach the community ever. Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, Twitter blew up while he was, the multiplayer developer. Okay. So you have to understand that a lot of these new people that are coming in that actually care about and are working on these franchises might have a different perspective, might have a better perspective. And who better than Playground to be doing a Fable? I mean, you can't have a better Xbox game studio to be doing it. And that is the beauty of it. And, it makes me excited because don't get me wrong. I'd never been into Fable, but I feel like a dev like that might get me into it and still have that humor that, I never really understood when I was younger, but now, it's like, it's much funnier to me now. And, to have a humor in the game like that, it is needed because, you don't want to be sitting there and have it serious all the time. And I hope they balance that well, but I'm pretty confident they will.
You know what? I agree with you. I think what they're going to do is wow us with a lot of things. One of the things that most people are looking forward to, and I'm actually kind of glad about this, is that this is releasing exclusively on the Series X. Of course, you'll be able to play it on the Series S, but it's not being made for current gen consoles. And there are a lot of people I've actually seen it said in the chat by multiple people that Halo should have not been made for current consoles. And I think the reason why it was simply is because they've been in development for 5 years with this game. Now, if this doesn't come out until, let's say, fall of 2021, like we all think it's going to, at least I do, I think it's going to, after the reception that this game got, if I were 343 and I was Phil Spencer, I would say, listen, at this point, the delay has happened. The ice has been broken. People are upset. People will get over themselves. Something else will come out. And we'll come back to Halo when it's ready. What I say you do is you take an entire 14-month block, right? Which is what it would be about, 14 or 15 months at this point. And you release this game to celebrate the 20th year anniversary which is November 15th, 2021, and you bring it back in a way where it's going to be a spectacle, not an afterthought because it's in Game Pass. You want to see people talking about this in the news. Master Chief is back. You want to see this get a 94 meta. You want to see people in the community freaking out because not only is multiplayer free, but the single player campaign, the gameplay is amazing. The story is outstanding. And the graphics, oh my God, they're incredible. And that's what you should do. That's what I think they should do. And that's what I hope they are going to do. At this point, would it matter? Would it honestly matter if it came out 6 months or 15 months from now? It actually wouldn't matter because they have so many other games coming out, and we only know half of their first party games that are in development. So, I mean, again, that's just my thing. I don't want to turn this into a Halo topic, but I just needed to say it. But Archimedes, look, Fable, just like I always say, is Master Chief is Xbox, Xbox is Master Chief. I think I can get away by saying that Fable is Xbox and Xbox is Fable. It's an important franchise. It's now a confirmed franchise for the next generation of Xbox. For you, hearing what Matt Booty had to say, are you happy to know that they're going to still retain some of the classic humor, but at the same time bring a new school look and feel to the franchise? As a fact, you know what? Here's even a better question. How new school do you want Fable to be?
Good one.
No, because I know that you're a big fan of The Witcher. So I want you to incorporate your love of what CD Projekt Red has done and somehow incorporate that into your answer.
Yeah, sure. Well, first, let me start a little with a little statement. I never envy someone who has to take over such a massive IP, because no matter what you do, you will always disappoint some parts of the fan base.
Yeah,
if you change too much from the original formula, you will disappoint the hardcore fans like Sammy. Yeah. No chickens to kick. Sammy is disappointed.
But that's really unacceptable. I mean, there has to be a couple of chickens in the game to kick. If not, I mean, that's just unheard of.
So I can actually see him posting this. If we don't kick any chickens, we riot. Is what you're saying.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna write 12 letters to Phil Spencer's mother. If we do not get to kick chickens, I'm going to be so angry.
Yeah, you see, so you can't change too much, but on the other hand, I think Crispy said it. You can't do the same like in 2016, 2006 when the first game came out. So that is really the difficulty, and I'm not envying any developer who needs to tackle that challenge with such a beloved IP. So, but if anyone can do it, Playground can do it. And to come back to your question, if you look at Forza Horizon 4 or 3, yeah, for that matter, and how detailed those racing games are, it is incredible. If you drive into a city, the cities are so detailed. You really want to get out of your car and just walk around.
Yes,
they are more detailed than some open world games detail their cities, where you actually can walk around through the cities. So if anyone can do it, they can do it. And yeah, coming back to that Witcher thing, the thing is, game development has moved on, and a lot of great open world games have released ever since. And Witcher is, in my opinion, the best one to date we have had. It is definitely my game of the generation, and it did so much for the genre. How you design an open world, how you make the side quests meaningful, how you get the player engaged with the characters and the story and the lore. They did it just so perfectly. And of course, I want Playground to take that out of their playbook, but with a lot of humor in it. Yeah, I don't see that this it can be only one or the other. You can make a humorous Witcher game. Yeah, no problem. And I think it is important for the Fable franchise is that it is a British developer. Yeah, they keep that British humor that made the franchise big, and this is amazing. I really, really love that, and we have gotten that vibe from the trailer. So yeah, I think if anyone can do it, Playground can do it, and yeah. One last thing I wanted to add, it came to my mind because you guys were talking about Rod Ferguson and that we need a face. We actually have a very popular face in front of Playground. It's Ralph Fulton. He was the creative director in all the Forza Horizon games, and he is actually a very cool guy. Whenever a Forza game or Forza Horizon game released, he was doing all the tours, had interviews with basically a lot of influencers and a lot of media outlets, and he's a really cool guy. And I did some research for one of my videos and went back and looked, when did we hear the first rumors that Playground is working on an action RPG? And actually, it was in January 2017. This was the earliest rumor I was able to find, yeah? So if you think about that, they have been working at least for 3.5 years now on that game.
Yeah.
And Ralph Fulton is involved. He's also the creative director on that game. That makes me really happy. And knowing that they already have been working for such a long time, and they still have a lot of time left, because I think it will be a 2022 game. Because, at the end of this trailer, they had that little logo that basically revealed that this is a game that is only developed for the Xbox Series X. And that is what I really want out of that game. Yeah, take advantage of all that SSD power to design a true open world game that wasn't possible on the older systems. Combining that with a little bit of the Witcher vibe and the humor that made the Fable series famous. I'm just getting goosebumps while talking about it. I can't wait.
Well, I mean, listen, I look, I could be completely wrong here. I think that Fable is a lot closer than 2022. I could be wrong. Maybe February 2022 could potentially be. It'd be a good month. I think that they're a lot further along that they're willing to admit. And I'm glad they don't talk about it. Pull a Sony, don't talk about it anymore. Just get the work done, and when it's ready, you'll release it. But real quick, I want to correct myself, because I just noticed that I said that Fable is 10 years old. It's not. The last official game in the trilogy was released on October 26th, 2010. That was Fable 3. We did have another release afterwards. It was Fable Anniversary. That came out on I believe it was February 4th, 2014. So we have had Fable. It's just been quite a while since we've actually had.
That was a remaster as well.
It was a remaster, yes. I have beaten that. I beat it every couple of years. I could play through that game 100 times. It's just.
I think that there was also like a Fable card game that was released as well.
Yes.
It's somewhere in there. So I guess that would technically count.
There was also a Connect game too. So
yeah, let's not talk about that one.
Okay, we won't talk.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't even kick chickens in that. I don't think. I don't know. I never played it,
I didn't play it, so I don't know. It was it wasn't like a Fable game that I would play, even though I enjoyed Connect. But listen, this has been a great opening topic. This is how you open up the show, with a lot of laughter, a lot of fun, a lot of passion, and a lot of excitement for a potential franchise that could be one of those games that or become the crown jewel of the next gen Microsoft story. And I cannot wait to play this whenever it does come out. But Archimedes, I'm going to bring this next topic starting with you, because you did a video which I watched. By the way, I watched it twice. That's how good it was. And I thought it was, for the production values are off the wall. And you're going to have to teach this old dog some new tricks, because the way that you produced your videos are just fantastic. But it's the context of the video that I want to bring into this particular conversation. But before I do, I just want to catch up on some of the super chats, because there's been quite a few of them. And let me see if I can pull them up. I know Zemi's been putting them in there. First of all, we have Spider-Man, who is a very generous friend of the show. Thanks for being here, dude. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says this. Where'd you go? Okay, he says, with the delay of games, the state of the world, and neither company able to gathers to celebrate with fans. Should Microsoft and Sony delay their consoles to 2021? No. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, even next year, I just don't know if we're even going to get an E3 standard. Like this world, with this, the T virus that is still ravaging this world it doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. And the only way it's going to get under control is when they come out with a vaccine. And we don't know how long that's going to take. I know that Russia says that they have one. I know that the world's minds are working on it.
Russia says a lot of things.
Sure, they do. Which again, we won't talk about Russia on this program, but we're going to say that that's what they're saying. And if they do, that's great. And hopefully that can help the world. But I don't see. I think that even though we're not going to be able to see a real, like, back in the days presentation when someone's walking into the store and Phil Spencer signing their Series X, or Yoshida is there handing the PlayStation 5 to somebody. I would love to be a part of something like that. I think that in its best form possible, that is what gaming's all about. It's community, it's excitement, it's one-on-one with the developers and the publishers. That's really what gaming is all about. This is going to be a very different kind of a launch. I think it's going to be a very exciting launch. I just think it's going to be very different from what we're used to. And I don't think they should delay either of the consoles. I think that we need. Listen, 2020 has sucked to high hell. There's no doubt about it. And you know what? It's continuing to suck, to be honest with you. But if they can end this year on a holiday note where new consoles come out and people are excited and people are playing, that it'd be a great way to kind of round out, which has been a crummy year for a whole lot of people. So thanks so much for the super chat, but more importantly, thanks for being here. Super appreciate that, dude. First of all, Sin Vendetta drops another outstanding and very generous super chat for $10 and says, look, I'm disappointed as much as anyone that Halo got delayed till 2021. But from what I saw on the July 23rd show from Xbox first party, gave me so much to get excited about. Xbox future looks bright. Yes, that's a great point. See, yes, we're all disappointed about Halo, but even if you are, you cannot tell me with a straight face that what Microsoft brought to the table and told you about the future of this box, you're not excited. If you're not excited, there's either two things. Either one, you just don't like Xbox, and that's cool. Or two, and this is going to be harsh, you're not a real fucking gamer. End of story. Sorry for the F-bomb, but I had to be blunt. Face BKNY drops another very generous $5 super chat. Says, when it comes to next gen, since both PS5 are capable of native 4K, how will casuals differentiate it between the two? You know what? Listen, I don't think, at least for the first couple of years, and I'm saying this, I'm being completely honest, that the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, the $500 one, which we're assuming both are going to be something the casual is going to gravitate to. I think the reason why Sony is releasing a digital version at $399, and I think the reason why there's a Xbox Series S that could potentially be as low as $200 but be at $299, is for that casual audience. Now, I don't know if they're going to be able to understand the difference between 4K Ultra and 1080p 60 FPS. I don't know if they're into I don't think they're going to care, to be honest with you. I think the casual market just wants to play a good game, and if it looks pretty, that's good enough for them. So I don't know. Yeah. To be honest, I don't think that is going to be such a big contributing factor. But the PlayStation does have a worldwide brand recognition, so you could see massive sales in the digital version of the PS5. Hopefully, Sony will have enough for everyone. I'm not buying the digital one. I want the old-fashioned disc one because I'm old, and that's just I'm set in my ways. But Mario and Pampa drops a very generous shout-out super chat and says this: with the rumor of the November 6th release date for Xbox Series X, will they be the first to give price? How can we go before one of them needs to give a price. Well, listen, this chicken staring contest thing is just getting really old. I mean, I don't know, man. We were hearing now that the August event that was rumored for Microsoft has now been pushed to September. Who the hell knows? I just need to know a price. But more importantly, can we just reserve these fucking things already? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Can we just get the stress of locking down our consoles out of the way? Because I have the money. I've had the money since the end of last year. I've been putting every gift card I got for Christmas, birthdays, you name it. I just want to be able to pay the system off and not have to worry about shit. Do I have to go to eBay to get one of these systems? Because I can't wait. And
more importantly, we need the date. I need to lock in my vacation days for the rest of the year, and I want to take a day off when the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox comes out. So I need those dates, and I need them soon.
I think we all do. I think it's something that they have to do, and hopefully it's sooner than later. Star Hunter 29, a very generous friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says this: just wanted to say thanks for the positive podcast. Oh, dude, thank you so much. Do really appreciate that, and I'm glad. I enjoy being positive. I mean, listen, I don't like being negative at all. It's just something that's not in my bones. But sometimes you got to talk about things that are negative. It's the way that you do it that can still be constructive. But, you know, Boxer Bear, talking about your video, you brought up some magnificent points regarding Microsoft's trouble when it comes to marketing. And look, we know Jarrett West came in last year. His influence was immediately felt during the 2019 Game Awards with the unveiling of the system and, of course, Hellblade 2. And for the first 6 months of this year, Microsoft was absolutely hitting on every cylinder. Every week there was a new Xbox Wire article. They were in bed with all of the press. There was actually positive articles about the Xbox brand. It was actually quite shocking. And they seem to have stumbled a bit. And, you know, people can equate this. Some people, and again, this is not me. I give the July 23rd show an 8.5. And I still stand by that. I thought it was a fantastic show. It showed me what I needed to know about the future of Microsoft and the brand and the platform. And it was there in color, and there was trailers, and it was exciting, and I loved it. But the Halo, you know, if you look at some of the missteps that they've had, right? And again, this is all kind of thrown into a bowl. It's going to make a real nasty piece of cake, right? You had the grounded review from IGN, which they gave it a 6, which I detract. I think that if you are reviewing a game that's in preview, you're an asshole. Sorry. Okay, I think that was low blow. I think it was classless. I think it was typical IGN, and it's why I don't like anybody over there. I think that they are click-based, and they don't care about gaming.
Something Adam Bankhurst, because I like him. He's a good friend of mine. He's a nice person.
Okay, I mean, listen, I don't know him, so I can't really throw him under the bus, but I'm going to say that I'm just going to throw IGN under the bus.
Okay.
And I'm going to say that they suck because they go out of their way to again, it seems like they pick on Xbox on a regular basis. I don't understand why, but from a business point of view, they need clicks. Fine, whatever. And of course, we had the leaked controller of the new console, which I thought was quite embarrassing. It was how do these controllers get out there and people are taking pictures? And again, I'm glad that they're confirmed, but if Microsoft was going to show off the Series S, this kind of threw them off track because the controllers clearly said for the Xbox Series X/S, right? So then the cat's out of the bag. The system exists. We know it exists. Another worst kept secret. And then, of course, the Halo delay didn't help. Boxer Bear, I want you to break down your thoughts and theories regarding the big question. Is there a marketing issue currently going on at Microsoft?
Well, so first of all, let me ask you, since we are talking about the video, do you mind if I drop the link into the chat?
By all means, you go right ahead. Drop 100.
All right, then I'll do that. Okay. So the bottom line in my video is that we have actually kind of two different departments for marketing within Microsoft. Like you said, we have had a fantastic showing from Microsoft from December till the May show. Let's put it this way. Yeah, they had presented the hardware in a very, very good way. They have had the influencers from Digital Foundry, Austin Evans, with their hands on.
Yes, great.
Those were great. Then they had a lot of good blogs and a lot of good interviews and little teaser videos to explain the hardware and their concept, and their messaging was just on point, crystal clear. How do they handle back compat? To this day, we don't know how Sony will actually handle back compat. Yeah, we hear the 100 games, and then we hear thousands of games, and then we hear only a few of them, and I don't know. I still don't know what the back compat line from Sony is. And Microsoft was very good and very clear in their messaging. As long as they talked about hardware and services. And that is where the Netflix guy, Jared West, comes in. Yeah, this is his responsibility. And then we have the games marketing division. And whenever Microsoft started to talk about games, it kind of felt not on the same level as the hardware marketing, to put it mildly. It is. See, the May event that was actually good. The problem was how they advertised it. Yeah, they hyped it up. Gameplay reveal for the Xbox Series X. And if you do stuff like that, you set yourself up for disappointment, no doubt. And it's not because the games shown were bad. It's because the expectations were set wrong. And who set the expectation? It was the marketing team from Microsoft, the games marketing team from Microsoft. Yeah, and then they told us, we hear your feedback and everything, and July event will be different. And everybody's, including me, was okay with it because, well, May, the pandemic has just started. Everybody needed to get used to it. You can say, okay, that was just throw it in that whole working from home and pandemic situation. But then 2 months later, they had the July event. And I gave the July event a 9.0, and I stand by that thing. It was a fantastic show because they shown us the roadmap for what to expect.
Yes.
But or at least announced it. They didn't show it, and that was my only criticism. We didn't see one single Xbox first-party game running on the Series X. The only game that had gameplay at all was Halo, and that was running on a PC. So to this day, we have not seen one single game running on the console that is supposed to come out in 3 months. We are talking about 3 months. Yeah. And we haven't seen, and not even from one of the partners. If they at least would have shown Cyberpunk or Assassin's Creed Valhalla running on that system, but we didn't see it. We have not seen 1 second of gameplay from one of the big AAA games, either from the third-party developers or the first-party developers running on that new console. They talked about so brilliantly about how this is the most powerful console, and the console design itself, the hardware design, it is amazing. They have put a lot of thought into it. It's a extremely well-balanced console from all we know, from what they have told us, and they are not able to show it. And whenever they start to talk about games, it's just the messaging is weird. So after the July event, I was happy with it, but I sat down and I was thinking, didn't they promise me after the May event that they heard the feedback? And the feedback was, why didn't we get to see gameplay? And they decided not to show gameplay. So something is weird with their game messaging. And then came the Halo delay. And I'm all pro the delay. Delay the game as long as you need. It's not that we don't have enough games. I mean, seriously, if you watch my video, it is... I put a little list of what I have just the games I have pre-ordered, and if I want to play it and finish them all, I'll be busy till the next holiday season in 21. So that is not the problem. Delay Halo, that's cool. But the thing is, if you put out such a bummer like this announcement of the delay from Halo, you need to bring some positivity into the conversation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to give us something. Show us a little teaser gameplay trailer for Hellblade, or announce another first-party game. I mean, they have so many studios that have not shown their cards so far. Show us the Initiative game. Here's the new Initiative game. We delay Halo, but
that was supposed to be at the supposed event.
Yeah, but then you have to be flexible. And this is what I expect from a marketing department. They have to be flexible here. They have to be able to react to situations. And they just thrown out, well, okay, we delay Halo. And the problem with it is that now the narrative is controlled by the fanboys and trolls. Yeah. I don't know how many times I have seen it on Twitter now. What's the point in getting the Series X now? And yes, I know that Microsoft is not relying on console sales per se. This is true. Their metric is Game Pass, and you can play Halo or whatever comes out also on the Xbox One X. But that was the case before they delayed the game as well. So. The problem is now the narratives come up again. Xbox has no games. What's the point in getting it? I'd rather get the PlayStation 5 because there I can play Spider-Man. That's the narrative now. And Microsoft is letting that narrative run without reacting and saying something about it. And that is the problem. And that's a marketing problem. Yeah. You have to, as a marketer, you have to control the narrative yourself. You have to be in charge what the fanboys are talking about. And this is what a good marketing manager does. And they have done it with the hardware, and they have not done it with the games department. And that's why I say Microsoft has a problem with games marketing.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. You know what? Speaking of marketing, I want to bring in our resident marketing manager himself, Joe. Listen, I want to get your opinion on this because, listen, right now, we know a lot of things. We know that the Series X is coming. Right. Yeah. We know that Halo's delayed. That's not a part of the equation anymore. Fine. But what we don't know, what we don't have any confirmation on is two things. One, what's going to replace it? And two, what other games are going to be coming at launch for the Xbox Series X? So here's my question to you.
Yeah.
Does Microsoft have a marketing games issue problem?
Absolutely. And there's no hiding it at this point. I think, man, Archimedes, yet again, I have not watched your video because I'm a bad friend and because I'm depressed today. But once we're out of here, I'm gonna give it a good listen. Because you're dead on the money, man. Like let's take a look at this Spider-Man nonsense that's going around, right? Look, we got Miles Morales. Oh my god, it's happening. The day after the thread got ahead of him. Right, this is a DLC or this is a Lost Legacy experience. Some suit that doesn't know anything said something. Ever since then, and almost immediately right afterwards, Insomniac, not Sony, Insomniac, not Jim Ryan, Insomniac. Talk about no, this is a standalone experience. No, this is made for the PS5 in mind, right? And then like every time they talk about Spider-Man, they go standalone experience, full game. Look at this EW article, Entertainment Weekly.
We're talking about it tomorrow, the open show on Breakfast with Boom, by the way.
Yeah, like, and they're talking about it, and like the bullet points are, Spider-Man isn't here. This is a full experience. This is a full game. They are constantly.
Pardon me, can I just add
go
one
for
thing?
It, please.
Even if it's not a full game, it doesn't matter. The perception is Sony has or launches the PlayStation 5 with a Spider-Man game. Right. That's it. That's the narrative out there. Yeah. Only the fanboys are arguing DLC, standalone, full game, whatever. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. When people are like, oh, it's Sony trickery. It's like, trick me. I don't care. It's Miles Morales. Like, pull the rug from under me. I don't give a shit.
One more platinum for Boom. That's all I get.
Exactly. Like, I don't care if it's 15 minutes. He's my favorite superhero. He gets me out of my depression. I owe him a lot.
But Sony also have that thing that Microsoft don't. They've got that first party title coming at launch.
Yeah, exactly. And so like that's the thing. I think you're totally right in terms of like, and we talked about this on the trophy room. Is like for the first half, if you listen to the trophy room, you heard me get worried, get straight up concerned of what was happening at Sony for the first half of the year. Why isn't Sony talking? Why isn't Sony saying anything? Microsoft had complete control of the narrative. And with May, whatever you thought about that show doesn't matter. The narrative started to change. There was like cracks in the armor, and that's a big concern, right? And like, yeah, they're like, you know what, guys, we heard you. We're gonna show you more gameplay. Listen, Archimedes, you hit it right out of the park. What they showed was we've not seen any game for the world's most powerful console. We have not seen a game run on an actual Series X. We hear things about the Series X. We haven't actually seen it at work. And that's the thing that's kind of the dilemma here. And maybe the Austin Evans things that maybe the only glimpse we have. So yeah, there is a marketing problem here that they need to be fixed. I can't tell you the magic solution because I am definitely not, you know, I could only diagnose the problem. I don't have the cure on me. So for me, I definitely see this.
Simple. Just listen what people want. They want to see how do games look on that system, and don't tell me that they have no games, because they have been working for more than 3 years on Hellblade 2. They have something. 30 seconds, that's enough to show. They have been working on Fable for more than 3 years. Show us something. 30 seconds again.
Yeah.
They have those games. And that would be enough. 2 games and 30 seconds and bam, you would take out that narrative.
Yeah.
And the other thing for the launch title problem, just do what Sony does and buy a third party exclusive.
You got to open up the wallet. I'm sorry.
And exactly. The thing is, so like Microsoft has a marketing problem. Look, we talked about it again on the trophy room. Someone put a link in there. I'm aggravated. I'm aggravated by the fact that I think that Sony's just going to get away with it again. I want Microsoft to hit Sony really hard so that Sony has to do some moves like the basic shit. Like if I buy a game digital, I should have a 2-hour grace period to return it. The basic essentials that they don't feel like they need to move because they're in such a power position. I want Microsoft to hit Sony so hard that they are flustered and they have to reevaluate their business. And the marketing team, healthy competition.
Exactly.
The marketing team for Microsoft, again, Corona has come in and affected everything. They're kind of all over the place at the moment. And I think right now the Halo news, they're in dire straits in terms of like, if I'm the PR team, if I'm Crisis PR right now, I'm running around with my head, my head cut off because I don't know what's going on anymore. I'm writing so much PR bullshit on the fly where usually I've had months to figure out my plan. I have now hours, days. So Microsoft's in this position where they have to show off the Series X. They have to show off this price. People are getting aggravated that they haven't seen the price. They're upset that Halo isn't a launch title. How do you fix these things? Archimedes, you said it perfectly. You have to show us the games. But the problem is that in itself is like a 6-month process of just giving us a virtual slice. So it is a dilemma that they're going to have to figure out. I don't know how. And that's the thing about this is there's so much information coming out about these consoles that it seems like they're both having a huge issue trying to tackle rumors and speculation. Like, one super chat before, like, guys, even us as influencers and enthusiast press are having a problem with all the information, with all the he said, she said bullshit behind the scenes. So there's so much right now that's wrong with the Xbox marketing. And it sadly, I don't think has to do with them so much as the situation at hand. At the moment now, I can definitely see, hopefully in a week, next week, Jeff Grubb said there's going to be major news for Game Pass to get us excited again. But Archimedes, you're 100% right. They have to go walk up to an Ubisoft, knock on Assassin's Creed Valhalla door and just go, can we have this? 3 months, 6 months, how many months?
Yeah.
Like, give us something.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely the truth. But listen, real quick, what I want to do is,
this is a rant.
I want to bring in the rest of the panel because we still have to cover the major topic regarding the PlayStation's power concern that has been rumored to be troubling, but we'll get to that after. Crispy, I want to go to you next, dude, because obviously you are on a lot of podcasts, so you're probably going to be talking about this, if not just today, probably a couple of times for the rest of the week, maybe even until next week. Microsoft there's a lot to get excited about with the new console. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You can be excited as an Xbox fan, but sometimes, and like I said, Boxer Bear really pointed out some great holes in their marketing. Do you agree or disagree that Microsoft needs to tighten their belt, so to speak, when it comes to how they are presenting their gaming aspect of Microsoft?
Well, I mean, we're not going to sit here and ignore that there's an elephant in the room,
right?
And I feel like the marketing team has had just as much trouble as the software team. I don't believe the hardware is the problem. I think when they release the date, we're here in the 22nd. I think the hardware is going to be there, and I think they're gonna use the Series S as an undercut. And it's basically they want you in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And they might not necessarily drop. They might match the price with the PS5 or the PS5 digital as far as the Series X. But when it comes down to, the Series S, I'm really thinking that they should really undercut it almost. I mean, if they undercut it by $200 and it's as powerful as the Xbox One X, which we already know they've discontinued, I think that would make total sense. And it would actually, like, yeah, maybe you're losing $50 to $100 off that particular console, but you are gaining a huge support base that wanted probably the One X and couldn't get it because, I've said this story before. I mean, it was sold out fast. Like all of the variations were sold out fast. And then all of a sudden they discontinued it. You know what I mean? So they're clearly making room for another console besides the Series X. Now, the marketing part of this is that it really hurts them, that I feel that the games are behind. Now, don't get me wrong. The most next gen I saw was the Medium, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and it's a launch title, by the way.
Good. And it's a launch exclusive title. Okay. Yeah. And it's on Game Pass immediately, which they need to go after Game Pass. They need to change their tone. They need to say, okay, they need to get Gears Tactics out on the Series X.
That is, I think, one of the launch titles as well.
Well, and they need to start saying, okay, this is what we're showing you. I mean, I understand it's a top-down, strategic type game, XCOM or whatever, and very, linear and but a lot of people like those games. And you have to realize that they're not completely worried about it. They got Samsung already marketing right now the Note 20, and it has, Game Pass and xCloud already, showing it. And it actually, on my TV at least, when they zoomed in, I think it was playing Forza Horizon or something, it looked pretty incredible. So, they're using what they've put into the cookie jars, as I call them, and unfortunately for Apple, I think they're gonna take a hit because they really are against, supporting multiple cloud.
Yeah, they really pooped in the pool, so to speak. Apple, they really did.
I'm going to be honest with you. Unless they change their tone, because I do like Apple device. I have one. I have an iPhone 11. Okay, but I also have had Samsung for years. And if you're not going to change your tone by the time I'm done with this Apple, iPhone 11, I'm going to switch because. When it comes down to it, you're not offering me a service, and it includes Stadia. Some people use it, especially with just, using a laptop or a phone or whatever. They use it, and you can't support these. You have to change your policies or whatever, or you at least have to show them as equal. So when it comes down to it, what Xbox has done is, they're not totally worried about it. Now, when it comes down to it, you have to realize that they have to tout that 120 frames per second.
Yes.
Because I'm going to tell you right now, and I said it in the chat many times already, if you go to 49-inch or below, you can get a huge value and get the hertz that you want.
Right.
And if it's just a gaming TV, your field of view is not going to go to 65-inch. If it's TV, movie, gaming TV, that's a different story. And I'm not telling you to go and compromise all those things to have just a gaming TV. Me, I happen to only have a space that can fit a 49-inch. And I'm going to tell you right now, I game much better and I have better visuals. And I already have, I've been playing, I've had 120 hertz forever. Okay. Now, the hardware hasn't supported it, but when I've gotten to 60 FPS and I played Gears 5, it's hard to go back. I mean, I played Hellblade before we got on this podcast, and then the motion blur and everything else is horrible. And I have motion blur off, and it's still there because the frames can't keep up.
Right.
And they're doing the right things. Like, they showed Ori, but they really, because Halo's not coming out, they need to tout these things and they need to let the hardware speak for itself. Is it going to sell gangbusters? No. Is it going to sell out? Probably.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So let it sell out. Okay. Bring out your I'm thinking they're going to have 3 AAAs coming out next year. And I think you leave Halo to the end at this point. I think you go holiday again next year.
That's what
you let them stew on it. You let them make it the way it should be, which is a next gen title, and stop listening to the whole Halo community because you're trying to attract new people to the game. Make it visually great. And you can do that very easily, I think, because they own the engine that they're using it on. Change it a little bit. You have the code in your hands. This is not like you're using some third party Unreal Engine. You can do what you want with it. So do it, make it better. And I think they can do it within like a year and a few months. You know what I mean? I think they can do that. And I think they can make it, nobody complained about Halo 5's visuals or anything like that. They complained about the way the campaign went about.
Yeah.
That's what they really, they didn't like the story. You know what I mean? And that's where I go and say, like, stop listening to the whole community. Guess what? I see it. I'm a Gears head. Okay. I see it all the time.
If I could just say it, the Last of Us Part 2, in terms of Neil Druckmann said when they announced that game, hey, there are going to be people that played the first game that are going to hate the second one. We have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
Dude, make your own fucking game. Don't listen listen to yourself. Listen to what's in your gut. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And half the other community is saying the same thing that they were trying to do to begin with. Yeah. And they changed their tone because the other half was doing, well, guess what? You want to play an old game, you play it. There's still people on Gears 2 that are playing the old game. Okay.
Why Gears 2? Why Gears 2? Yeah?
And I love Gears 2. That's one of my favorite games of all time.
But really is? I hate Gears 2.
Yeah, you know what? The campaign really
is good.
And I'll tell you, Gears 2 brought Horde mode to the entire world.
So here's the thing. I love the Horde mode. I remember as a kid in high school, so I don't know any better. But like, I loved the story. I hated the competitive multiplayer aspect, I believe, but I loved Horde mode. So like, when we wanted to play competitive, we'd go back to 1, and then like for everything else, we would go to 2. I remember
hopefully, and I'll bring this last point. Hopefully, we market the box. You know what? You don't have the games that are coming. I mean, you can really tout games like The Medium because it will come out and it will look great. You have Ascent, which is they have a lot of
games that they may not be
different.
Yeah, you know what? They have a game for everybody, and they need to let people know about it. That's again the marketing issue. Zemi, you've been sitting here, you've been hearing everybody's right, and I know that you're going to have a lot to say on this. Right now, Microsoft needs to do something to stop the bleeding. That's just my opinion. And the way that you do that, we know they got the power, right? We don't know about the price. We don't know release date, fine. But you got to be out. You got to get out in front of this thing and say, listen, Halo's delayed. We're all sad. But this is what you can play. And they show us the Medium. They show us Valhalla running. They show us Cyberpunk running. They show us the Ascent. They show us Scorn. They show us Bright Memory Infinite. They show us what we can play the day we bring home our system. Do you agree with that tactic?
So first, I mean, just kind of jumping back and going all the way back to the very beginning of the topic. I think to really understand what's happening, you need to like dive down deep and get to the roots of the problem, right? And I think that a lot of this is being blamed on marketing, and I think marketing is definitely the symptom of the root cause. But I think the root cause is the same root cause that Xbox has been struggling with for, you know, pretty much all of this generation, especially terrible in 2013 and just now recropping up now. And that is messaging and communication and the delivering correct information to everybody. I think that is their biggest problem right now is communication. And I think a big reason why we saw Xbox so good earlier this year and so bad now is because, you know, and everyone's not going to want to hear this, but, you know, world conditions right now, you know, the C virus is definitely having a big effect. And I think that the most critical thing that it's doing for Microsoft is it's really hindering their ability to communicate and offer ideas together the way that they were able to do beforehand. And I think that is the main, you know, evil root cause of all of these problems that they're facing right now. They definitely need to focus up. They need to reevaluate their situation. They need to open up new lines of communication. That way, everybody gets accurate information and everybody knows what's going on. Look at it like this. Halo getting delayed. I'm perfectly fine with that. I think the game needs it. I think it's good for every single person involved. But why is now the first time that we're hearing this? Why did you show us Halo, but, you know, a month ago? Right? Yeah. Why did you show a game that you were ready to delay? What that tells me is that they didn't know that they were going to delay it at the time of showing it in July. And that is a problem. That is a huge problem. And you know, sure, we can say it's a marketing problem, but at the root, it's a communication problem. It's a messaging problem. Yeah. And so I think the biggest thing that they need to focus on is setting up those correct lines of communication, getting everybody on board, having all departments working together and figuring out how to, you know, how to fix this, right? And I think as soon as you do that, everything else is going to fall in line. But I think if you don't do that, then you can do whatever you want. You can go spend billions getting third-party games. You can go and advertise the crap out of Game Pass or whatever, but you're still going to have that root problem that's going to be screwing things up later on down the road. That's what they need to figure out. This specifically is what I truly think is the root cause of all of this is messaging. They need to talk to each other. They need to make sure everyone's on board with the same ideas, because that is the big problem that I'm seeing right now. That is the biggest, you know, difference between now and 3 months ago or 6 months ago, whatever you want to call it, right? Is, you know, before they were able to all work inside an office together, communicate, share ideas, and now they're not. And we know, we've seen it before in Microsoft's history, how bad things can get whenever communication and messaging is not happening, right? And so I think that is the first thing that they need to fix and address before they come up with anything else.
And Sammy, if I could just, and my rant's over for real this time, like, this is that part is on Phil, because I saw on Animal Talking, Gary Whitta's show, Phil Spencer was on. He talked about they were in discussions of splitting the game. So those rumors were right. They were totally true. And that they decided to delay. So they knew exactly what was wrong with Halo, but they still, like, I don't know why they went about it the way they did and lose so much momentum. Like, that is, I don't know.
It's shocking. To close out this incredible topic that had a lot of emotion attached to it, Flab, why don't you give us your opinion on this? You know, obviously, again, you heard everyone talk about it. You saw the show notes. Does Microsoft have a problem, and how would you address it if you were running the show?
Yeah, I think they do, actually. And I think up until fairly recently, I think everything was relatively on track up until perhaps the July showcase. I mean, I gave the July showcase an 8. Firstly, because it lost a point because they didn't show anything from Senua's Sacrifice. I mean, in December, they absolutely blew me away with that trailer. And I needed more. I absolutely needed more. It's the only thing that's really got me excited for next generation game-wise, if I'm completely honest. But back in December, when they showed the Series X and surprised the gaming world, this was a very confident Microsoft. They were very proactive. Their messaging felt very clear at the time. It was about the hardware, and like Archimedes said, they had Austin Evans, they had Digital Foundry in, just to even take the box apart. I mean, I've never known anything like that in a console launch, particularly that early. I mean, it was really, exciting and hype, and they built a lot of hype. And I'd like to thank Archimedes, actually, because I think his video has actually answered a question that I've been struggling to answer in my own head as to what's been going on lately. And I think he's absolutely right. I think the hardware, I think the hardware and platforms marketing, absolutely on point. It's been absolutely brilliant. But what couldn't happen is that the software side of the marketing, they didn't carry on the hype, because it's all very well getting hyped for a console launch, but you need something to carry that, the console launch as well. You need stuff to play on it. It's all very well partnering with £500, but why are you doing that? You need to do that for the games that are coming out. And so, it seems recently that, there's fires that seem to be springing up all over the place that Microsoft need to really put out and fast, because I think Zamy mentioned it. It's, the narrative is now controlled by the fan base, and you can't allow that to be the narrative, because, no one really knows what's going on. I don't know for sure what the exact lineup's going to be on launch day. And I feel like we should know that by now. Phil Spencer mentioned that he actually had a final retail unit and got it at the weekend. And again, like Archimedes said, we still haven't seen a single frame that was claimed to be running on Xbox Series X. And that kind of worries me. But what worries me more is that, with these rumors of Sony going around and snapping up third-party exclusives, either, complete titles or even just content, and obviously, Microsoft with the Halo Infinite launch and sad news that is, it leaves them with a massive hole in their lineup. So I think you're right. I think they need to get the checkbook out and start building the hype back up and start doing the software thing that the hardware and services team have been doing so fantastically up to this point.
And honestly, like, the fact that we're talking about this on an Xbox show is a failure on Xbox's part.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be having this conversation. We should be having, and gang, like, and as we are doing, we're demanding better.
Yes, and rightfully so. We should.
Yeah, we should be talking about how awesome the Series X is and how hyped we are for it. And instead, we're just like, we're having a post-mortem, and the body hasn't even been, it isn't cold yet. No,
I mean, listen, it's a great point. Listen, I'll say this: this show keeps it real. We talk about Xbox from both perspectives. When there is something to cheer, you're going to get confetti. When there's something to loathe, which is what we're talking about, you're not going to get doom and gloom. What you're going to get is constructive criticism and maybe a way for them to fix their issue. But this is a topic that has gone on for quite a bit, and I'm very happy because everyone got their points out. What I want to do is I want to catch up on some of the super chats, and I want to immediately go right to the big topic of the show. And I saved that for the end. And obviously, you can look at the time. We're 90 minutes into the program. This is probably going to run a little bit longer. I hope everyone can hang around because there's a lot to talk about in the next topic. But Viper XT drops a very generous $5 super chat and says this: the nice thing about how our Xbox game studios are set up is that Playground can pick the brains of studios like Obsidian for RPG elements and Ninja Theory for cinematics. Absolutely. We have Eagles fan 76, and actually Eagles fan, thanks so much for being here. Of course, thank you for your generosity. He says, without a pre-order date, I'm starting to get console talk fatigue. I need to get my console pre-ordered to get excited again. Are you guys feeling that? Dude, we actually said that right before you dropped the super chat. We're all just tired of the BS. We just want to reserve our stuff and get one less stress thing out of the way. We also have Sikyo Yumi, a good friend of the show, drops a $2 super chat and says, the gunk gave Miles energy to star in a full game. Thank you for that. Sean Carpenter drops an additional outstanding $5 super chat and says, I gave the last show an 8.7. Let's go for a 9 or higher next time, Microsoft. Xbox S and X for the win. By the way, also need more talk about Stalker 2. It was a hitting gem. Yeah, Stalker 2, I think, is going to surprise a lot of people. We also have a new channel member, Mighty Ryan. Thank you so much for becoming a Double Barrel Gaming channel member. That is awesome of you. We also has I think I'm gonna screw this name up. It's it says, I think it's Chill Z the God. So listen, I'm sorry if I screwed it up. Thank you for your outstanding $5 super chat. He says, great show, Boom and fam. I think Xbox already knows what Sony is doing, and they are holding a lot of cards close to the vest. Yes, I believe that as well. Smitty Smith, our very good brother, bringing us back to church once again, and says this: a little bit of new blood to help out the marketing, a couple of pair of fresh eyes to reevaluate the situation. Great show. Listen, folks, you know I want to work for Microsoft. Microsoft knows I want to work for Microsoft. And I'm going to say this publicly. I don't have the piece of paper. I don't have a college degree to say that I'm good for marketing. What I have is 40 plus years of gaming experience and a solid brain in this big head of mine. So if Microsoft, if you're listening and you want some fresh eyes and you want someone that has the pulse of the community in mind, reach out to me. My business DM email is right there. All you have to do is click it and drop me a link and a plane ticket to Seattle, and I will fly out there and we will have a discussion.
Can I say, get that gamer in there? Come on.
Yes. They need that. They need a gamer in there, and I'm willing to take one for the team and be that gamer and work for Microsoft.
And if you need an assistant, Boom.
Don't worry, Joe. I'll be calling you right away.
No, Boom. If you need an assistant, man, you just let me know. Okay, I'm always available. You just
Joe. I have to tell you, Joe. I think you're going to lose to Zemi because Zemi's a chef. So
there you go.
But when you're in there, yeah, I want to be the assistant of Jason Ronald in the tech department. That's where I want to go.
Oh my goodness! Listen, Everborn Saga drops an outstanding $5 super chat. Says, "Boom, what's up? Sorry I'm late. Also, who's getting that Surface Duo? I just pre-ordered mine. So hyped to try xCloud on that device. Yeah, that Duo does look dope. I'm not even going to front." Philly Eagle drops an outstanding additional $5 super chat and says, "Not being sold on next gen is your problem. However, asking for better, whatever that may be, is perfectly fine. Just don't be toxic." And that's a great point, dude. As always, Everborn Saga jumps another outstanding $5 super chat and says, "Could it be that Microsoft is too open with us? Everyone was mad at Sony for their lack of communication, but it seems like it's now paying off." Yeah, that's a great point. And PixelBitG, a very generous friend of the show, drops a $5 super chat and says, "Let's be real. Nothing on either console is OMG. Have to have it day one. But hardcore gamers aren't making excuses. Both will buy day one. For me either way." Yeah, and I agree with that. And Viper XT drops another outstanding $5 super chat and says, "Microsoft needs to push Crossfire X, Stalker 2, Bright Memory Infinite. And those games are going to appeal to a lot of people." Yes, they certainly are. But listen, folks, this is the big topic. And it's a topic that is going to raise a lot of questions. And we're going to try and answer it to the best of our ability. Now, up until now, Microsoft and Sony have had their eyes on each other, watching and waiting from the shadows for one and or the other to make a move. And the three main ingredients that have yet to be answered are price, release date, and when we can pre-order the console. This is that could be a topic all by itself. Now, the price and power is something that many in the gaming community will ultimately use to decide what next generation console they purchase, and in what many are calling an explosive statement by industry insider Dusk Golem, Sony's PlayStation 5 may be releasing with two huge disadvantages, both being more expensive and less powerful than the Xbox Series X. Now, this is a death sentence we've seen happen once before with the Xbox One. And this was something that happened in 2013, and I talked about this at the opening of the show, could easily be roles reverse if true. Remember, folks, you take this with a grain of salt. I'm not putting a stamp on this that Sony's system sucks. I'm saying that based on what Death Golem is saying, and I'm going to read exactly word to word what he said on Reddit, raises some questions. Let's say that. Now, obviously, with Microsoft's Xbox Series X confirmed to be more powerful and the imminent reveal of the Series S, coupled with Xbox Game Pass, Project X Cloud being added for free, potentially Xbox Live going free for all, Sony actually could potentially find themselves in a bit of trouble. So in a story pulled from WCCF Tech.com, Dusk Golem, who posted this on Reset Era, has caused a firestorm of doubt, concern, and more importantly, disbelief. Here is what the prominent Capcom/gaming industry insider had to say on the subject. From some murmurings I've been hearing, I'll just say I suspect this topic is going to age interestingly when a few more details on both platforms are revealed. I mean, in a few more ways. But to give the broadest idea, I'll just say that the Xbox Series X is far more powerful than the PlayStation 5 if we're talking raw power. Multi-platform games will run better there. It is something that people are going to have to prepare themselves for. Add to this, Microsoft are already, listen to this, folks, and this is where it gets good. Add to this, Microsoft, according to his sources, are all ready to lowball Sony when it comes to price. They can move easily. They can more easily make a sacrifice and get back profits from Game Pass than console sales than Sony can, or when you compare the two. PS5 is easier to develop for overall, and Sony has very talented studios behind it that will get the most out of the PlayStation 5. That I have no doubt. But this topic is about how Microsoft will compete. So I'm focused on that. But when it comes to cross-platform games, they will end up performing a lot better on the Series X. Xbox Series X will have the tech advantage over the PlayStation 5, and it's going to be more than just marginal. And this is what he finishes off. This is the last two statements, and I'm going to get into the panel's opinions on what Dusk Golem had to say. The basic gist of what I've heard is that the PS5 is really good to work on for games exclusive to it. But in practice, the specs kind of get weird for multi-platform games. If the usage of the PS5's SSD system does help a bit, but not to the fullest. And I've heard from some developer friends that have been talking about the PlayStation 5 and how it struggles running games at 1080p 60 FPS, while the Xbox Series X doesn't have the same problem and can push above even in most cases. Now, of course, this is what he continues with. Of course, this is a small selection of people I've talked to. There's more to it. But I hear something that's going to make this generation a bit more interesting is that the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X focus on other areas are going to make multi-platform games interesting this generation to the point where we may actually see less of them and far more games coming from one platform or the other, plus PC. Now, in a follow-up, he clarifies that he was referring mostly to Resident Evil Village, apparently struggling to get to 1080p 60 FPS on the PlayStation 5, whereas the Xbox version is running in pristine condition. So this is concerning. Now, listen, folks, there's a lot to unpack here, panel, and we're going to be here for a minute or two. And I'm going to start with Zemi. Zemi, listen. When you talk about industry insiders, you can loop that into anything. But when you talk about an industry insider like Dusk Golem, who is a prominent insider, he goes out of his way. He is, first of all, he's normally reporting on Capcom news. He has a very strong inside source to not only Capcom, but more specifically Street Fighter and Resident Evil. He's also known in these YouTube streets as having some tremendous information when you're talking about Silent Hill. But this is a bombshell, and I'm going to be honest with you. Could he be wrong? 1,000%. But because he stakes his reputation on him reporting real news, I think there might be something to this. We're not going to know until obviously the consoles are out. But what do you think about this damning report suggesting that the PS5 is having problems running third-party games? I mean, this sounds like the PS3 all over again.
Mm-hmm. I mean, going into this generation, even 6 months, a year ago, right? We had a very strong idea that the PlayStation was not going to be as powerful as the Xbox, Series X, and this rumor, this leak, whatever, obviously, supports that. But we also have to remember that this is one person, regardless of how, how the amount of like good faith content he's given, trusting news he's given to consumers before, he still has his own personal biases, and so this is only coming from one source. So I think it's very safe that we need to before we, go and get our pitchforks, we definitely need to hear it from other people as well, right? I think that that's important to remember. But ultimately, I don't think it's going to have as big of an impact as, what one might think. And the reason why I say that is because PlayStation users, especially the hardcore, are very, very, very forgiving of Sony. Typically, right? I mean, am I wrong? Like they are.
You are right.
Very forgiving of Sony. But then also, you also kind of mentioned 2013 as an example, and that's I typically have a lot of like problems relating things, or relating a lot of these things back to time periods like that, or even the Xbox 360 release and stuff like that, because 2013 was a bit of a different situation, because yes, Xbox was charging more money, but they were also charging more money for something that gamers didn't want, for features gamers didn't want, right? Which is completely different from now. Right. But having that same price point as Xbox, I mean, yeah, I could definitely see it potentially hurting sales. But we also have to remember that casuals aren't going to be going and looking up a spreadsheet, comparing, the specs of both of these consoles. They're going to say, hey, I want to play Spider-Man, or hey, I want to play Halo, or hey, the Xbox looks cool, I'm going to buy that. Or the PlayStation looks cool, I'm going to buy that, right? So really and truly, like where a lot of where this is really potentially going to hurt them is the hardcores, but I think the hardcores are going to be very forgiving of this is the thing. And for the casuals, I think the casuals are going to somewhat really kind of look past this. I at least I believe they will. So I don't think it's as devastating of news as possible, whatever. But I mean, it's definitely concerning for, people like us that are wanting to buy both a PlayStation and both an Xbox, and we expect to get our full bang for our buck. It is kind of, concerning there. But I think on the grand scheme of things, it's not going to impact a lot of things. Like, yes, it from just hearing it, it sounds like it's going to have a really big, impact, but I really don't think it will.
Well, I mean, listen, again, this is just a report from one guy that has been known to make a lot of noise on the internet. He's normally never wrong, and I'm not saying he's right now. I'm saying that he's reporting on it. As a matter of fact, Tom's guy just dropped a story on the power of the PlayStation 5, and I'm not sure if they're referencing Dusk Golem or not, but that story just dropped. So people are starting to talk about this. And only time is going to tell. Flab, I want to bring you into the conversation. I want to kind of change the order of it. I mean, obviously, like Semi said, this is just one person and his opinion, and it's his sources. I don't know who his sources are. I don't know if they're directly working with Sony or if there's someone in a back alley. But it still made the gaming news, and we are here to report it. So what are your thoughts on this? Could Sony be in a bit of trouble if their system is significantly running third-party games lesser than on the Series X?
Well, yeah, I mean, if that turns out to be a fact, and only time will tell, then yeah, I think Sony possibly are in trouble slightly. I think Zemi's right. I think the hardcore gamers are very forgiving of Sony. I think there's probably a slightly other tier of hardcore gamer that would be extremely disappointed to hear any bad news about PS5, really. But particularly this, when it's the power narrative, I don't know how. And perhaps Badbit can answer this. I don't know how in the Sony community, how the used they are to not having the most powerful console since Xbox One X. I mean, is that such a big deal, or do PlayStation fans fall back on the games that that are on that?
They
platform?
fall back on the games typically. Yeah. Also, it's a running joke on the trophy room. We're very confused about smart delivery. We don't see it the big deal about it.
So perhaps
we're a confusing bunch. We really are.
So perhaps the power narrative for the Sony fans isn't quite as massive as a deal as this article would at first suggest. But what I would suggest is that I think if, like Zemi says again, this is one person's view. But if this is true, then you will start to hear about this more and more. And like you said, Boom, this does remind me of the PS3 cell processor days where, multiplats, the one that springs to my mind was the orange box, and Valve never really put much love into that conversion for the PS3. I think if Microsoft play their cards right, there is something actually in Golem's article that kind of contradicts it, because he does say that the PS5 is easy to develop for. That seems to be contradicting, really, because obviously if it's struggling to run 1080p at 60, then I think that suggests it's not that easy to develop for.
Also, I kind of at that point kind of think it's bullshit, because we see Spider-Man running 4K 60.
Well, I mean, that's a first-party title. And
I don't think it's running at 4K 60. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case. They said it's going to run at 4K or 60. Spider-Man is probably going to be running at potentially 1080p 60, maybe 1440p, or 4K 30.
Okay,
it's going to be running at 4K 30. Yeah, no, it's not running at 4K 60.
Yeah, because from what I'm aware of, it was going to be running at 4K 60, but you don't get ray tracing. That's what I don't know. I mean, listen, again, I'll play it in 30. It's going to be fine for me. I don't think that's the case. Yeah, I mean, I want that ray tracing. Okay.
So. But Sony's silence up till now has seemed kind of passive-aggressive. It's been very strange. I think Sony's silence, I think Microsoft had them rattled, actually, because as surprised as I was in December, I'd love to have been the Sony executive, fly on the wall just to see how they reacted to how Microsoft came out the gates. I mean, it was fantastic to see. And it seems like Sony have possibly been on the back foot ever since, really. But their stance seems to have been playing the silence game. And I actually think that's worked in their favor in the long run, because they can just stay silent on this, because it's no different from what they've done most of the year. When Microsoft come out the gates like they did and then go silent, everyone notices. And it feels like there's a massive hole in the marketing, again, going back to Archimedes' video. So I think Sony can afford to stay quiet on this for the time being, perhaps until if there's more information that starts coming out that these games aren't going to run, and particularly third parties. That could be interesting. I think Sony might have to react with something, but I'm not sure what that looks like, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Crispy Bomb, obviously, you're going to be, again, this is something I think is going to start making the rounds. And because you're on several podcasts, you could potentially be talking about it. Thankfully, you're going to be talking about it on this one first. What are your thoughts on this? Because, Flap just actually said something pretty interesting. Sony has been very quiet regarding the actual full-on specs. Now, we know the console is going to be powerful. I mean, listen, no one's denouncing what the PlayStation 5 is going to be. But for me, it's not going to be the place where I play third party. It's going to be not a place where a lot of people play third party, because I want the best experience for third party games, and that's not on the PlayStation 5. That is going to be on the Xbox Series X. I'm going to use that box for exclusives only, just like I use the PlayStation 4 now, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. Could Sony be in trouble if any of this report is true?
Well, let's be honest for a second. What you just said is exactly what I'm going at. All right. You have these third parties that see that Microsoft is playing nice with the PC market, correct?
Yes.
So it makes total sense for them to build a PC model and easily scale it down thanks to Microsoft software, and realize that the hardware is actually capable of at least giving a sum of what they do on the PC. And that's the beauty of it, is that Sony is a hardware company. A lot of people don't realize that. They are a full-on hardware company. Only recently, in the past few, I'd say 5 years, they've really pushed out some great software. And the problem is that they're very exclusive. They don't play nice with everybody else. And you have Microsoft sitting here like, let's have cross-play and everything. Let's do this. Let's do that. Oh, we got Game Pass. If you know, your game's kind of in development, we got our preview program. We got all of these things that can help you get eyes on it. Now, yes, it might not blow out of the water. It might not be the greatest thing in the world at first, but we all see Sea of Thieves. We all saw how Minecraft blew up over the years. Okay? You have to understand that Microsoft is playing a different game. And the only issue that we're going to have is, if you've listened to both sides of the spectrum, everybody touts SSD on PS5. No. Xbox Series X is a balanced box with the software to back it up, with them saying, we will upgrade your game as long as you let us by ourselves. We will spend the money. Microsoft is willing to spend the money. And we've heard it from multiple people. Larry, Herb, Phil, everybody else. It's about the gamer right now. Let's ignore the fact everybody's on the same page on that. It's about the gamer, okay? It's about what you experience. And when you partner with somebody like Samsung, I mean, Samsung has great hardware right now. They are rivaling, they are fighting all kinds of different battles, and they are still right with them or winning, one or the other. And you have to understand that Microsoft will be strategic. They are not a hardware-based company. They're not worried about that. Samsung ain't making a new freaking gaming console. They're worried about the Googles, the Amazons. That's what they're worried about, because their cloud infrastructure seems to be pretty incredible, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And they continue to upgrade it. And they're going after the whole spectrum. They're not going after one little bit. And I understand you could say 15 million for Spider-Man and this and that. Well, Spider-Man is a Marvel IP in general. That will sell you the console. That's why you see Miles Morales there. That's why people are going to call that out. There's a whole point to that. You have to understand that there's comic book fans. There's people that want to play as Spider-Man. That's why Avengers having Spider-Man exclusive on that console has happened. They are smart about what they do, but I don't feel the console is going to be even close, to be honest with you, except for their first-party exclusives. And unless they bring out a first-party exclusive that has some kind of multiplayer element, they're not going to make the money that Microsoft makes. They're just not going to do it, because even though you could sit there and say Grounded has dropped or whatever else, when they come out with the full game, it's going to come right back up there. And you're going to be like, holy crap, what the hell happened? And it's on Steam. It's on everything. And they're getting pirated just like Sony is. But they've only released a few titles. Like, released God of War on Steam. Like, you have to play ball now. This is not the same environment that we were 10, 15 years ago. This is an internet-based environment. Microsoft is going after RPGs. They're going after multiplayer elements. And I want them to continue to do it because I enjoy the experience. And I know PlayStation gamers that have never played an Xbox or have dropped off at 360 and didn't touch the one at all and have experienced it now, and they understand the true PlayStation gamers, and they say, my God, you know what? This experience here is actually incredible. You know, even though I don't get my single player, third person story driven games, I get games that mean something to me, and I get to play them with my friends.
Yeah.
And
Well, we know you're a
that's what
multiplayer guy at heart.
and you know, the connectivity that Xbox provides is incredible. And they continue to push all of these narratives, and I want them to continue to, even though they're getting flack, they're getting hated on. I want them to. And it comes down to PlayStation needs to change it because, man, you know, what got me into multiplayer was SOCOM, man. Like, you need to bring back a good, solid IP that you need to work on for a little while, and you need to bring a good multiplayer element into it and have the single player. And I just don't see it from them lately.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, it's the truth. Listen, I want to bring Archimedes into this. Listen, again, Archimedes, this is a rumor. It is speculation. It is a topic that I thought would be interesting because, like everyone has suggested already, Sony has been very quiet regarding more technical specs on what they're going to do with their PlayStation 5. And again, yes, we know it's going to be powerful, but we know for a fact it's not going to be as powerful as the Xbox Series X. Now, based on this report, their suggestion that it's going to be significantly less powerful. And that is a problem, especially if they're going to be charging $500. What are your thoughts on what this gentleman had to say?
Well, I think we will see a lot more of these kind of statements once Digital Foundry makes the comparisons. I mean, well, see, when Sony started to talk about the technical specs, they had that tech talk with Mark Cerny.
It's awful.
And, well, I would beg to differ because I like these kind of tech talks, but I'm an engineer and that it's different. It wasn't for the masses. It was very technical, but it was also very confusing because if you do a tech talk and you do it for engineers, and you need to be a little bit more specific, and they left so many questions open. One good example is, for instance, the discussion about, is it really RDNA 2 or 1 or 1.5 or what is it? It took them like forever to clarify that. And to this day, we still have a lot of questions open. I've said it after that talk, and I repeat it again. I think that the PlayStation 5 is a good engineered console, but it is very one-sided. They have heavily invested in that SSD, and the GPU and CPU. It kind of feels like it's an afterthought because they had to implement that smart shift feature where they can vary the clock speeds of the GPU and CPU to give one or the other a little bit a boost. The thing is, these kind of things are cool if you develop or very specialized for that system. And that is what also this whole panel has said before. If we look at first-party games, they will take advantage of that smart shift feature.
Yes.
No third-party game will do that. It's the same with their sound engine. That sound engine is cool. It's great, but you have to develop specialized for that engine. No third-party developer will do that. They don't have the time. They don't have the money to do that.
Great.
And so they have to always rely on the lowest common denominator within the box. So they have to. They can't optimize for that boost mode. So they have to take the lowest possible clock speed from the GPU and the lowest possible clock speed from the CPU to optimize the games for. And what will be the result of that? It will be that games will run significantly with lower specs than on the Xbox. That's just how it will be. And even if some third-party devs will optimize for the boost mode, the delta in between the two is still there, and I think we will see that. We'll see that especially with all the Digital Foundry comparisons coming up, and that narrative won't go away in the next generation. That the PlayStation game, third-party games will just run not as good as on the Xbox.
I mean, listen. Again, we're talking speculation. We do know one has more powerful than the other. It's going to be the end result. How do we tell this? Is we're going to be playing the games. Will there be a significant difference in visuals? I don't know. We don't have the consoles. When I get both consoles and I can do a side by side or wait for Digital Foundry to do it, then we'll know. Joe, I brought you in the back end because you are our PlayStation representative, and you yourself, you already said it. You don't believe this report, and that's fine. That's fine, because I don't think there's any report is going to be 100% proof positive. What are your thoughts on the fact that the PlayStation 5, based on this report, can potentially be significantly less powerful than the Series X?
Okay, let me get the lawyer suit on. So first, I have to correct you, Boom. It is official from Insomniac and also Android. What is this? Android Central and Polygon. Yes, 4K 60 Spider-Man. That's
okay.
confirmed.
Great, excellent. Okay, good. Thank you for the correction.
Yeah, I don't want no super chat coming at us. I had to be prepared. Now, when it comes to that article, it's rumors from a guy I don't know, so I don't care. I know for a fact it can run 1080p 60. The rumors that I'm hearing is definitely PSVR support, and that's the thing that gets me very excited as a PlayStation fan. So I know that's false. Also, there's already conflicting reports on that guy's behalf. So I'm pretty sure we're gonna be fine. Now, that said, yeah, Series X is more powerful, like a lot. I expect that. I mean, it's got 12 teraflops, teraskips. It's got all these things. Yeah, I expect it. Now, what Jeff Grubb has kind of cleared the air about a few things, because the article now is also in question here, at least from WCCF Tech. He says, okay, this was just an example of a possible issue that could arise. That said, if you're a developer and know anything about working with SmartShift, reach out to me. Also, I really hate the term fake 4K. We should all be hoping that we get fake 4K, because I promise most of us can't tell the difference. I really can't. And we'll all get better performance and graphical options. Now, before I get any dissenters in the audience going, Joe, how dare you in that comment, Jeff Grubb, you're a fanboy. You're going to see that technology in the Lockhart, where they're optimizing 4K images for 1080p, and it's going to look so good, you're not going to tell the difference on Lockhart. So trust me, you want that. And then Jeff then goes, SmartShift is not like the cell processor. Please stop. So again, article, a lot of rumors, speculation. So all I'll say is this. I take any rumor, grain of salt. Right.
Which we said in the beginning.
Exactly. So I take it all with a grain of salt. That said, Xbox Series X, more powerful. And I think, what Flap here said earlier, PlayStation gamers and Xbox gamers are very different. Xbox players want the power. PlayStation players, from what I genuinely see, we really don't care. We just kind of want the experience. So you could kind of say that we're the Apple user and the Microsoft users are the Android people, where Android people will get in the specs. They'll tear that phone apart, where like Apple people were like, we just got dark mode. It's great.
Great point, dude.
May I say something here?
Yes.
The first 3 or 4 years in this current generation, the PlayStation guys cared for the power, because they had the power now.
Yes, that's a great point, because
yeah, but did they care, or did they just use that as the narrative?
Yeah, but you know what? But they didn't have the games then. They did the same thing that Xbox did.
Yeah,
they went third party indie. They locked down second party exclusives. That's exactly what they did last gen. Because we're in a new gen. I mean, you could say we're not, but it's the year. It's happening. Okay, the hardware is going to release. If one doesn't release, they're going to have a major issue. And so the hardware is going to release. And we have to understand that at the end of the day, PlayStation did this before. This is almost Xbox playing a PlayStation card and saying, we're going to get second party exclusives maybe for a year or everything else. And they're kind of indie games as quotation marks. But at the end of the day, they have Game Pass to throw them out there and people might really love them. And that's the point.
So yeah, Joe.
Yeah. So the point I want to make here is to go to Archimedes' point, who's actually going to use the dual sense rumble. That's probably a gimmick. Who's going to really use Tempest sound? Who's going to really use this, that, the other thing?
Sony is going to use that. I don't think you're going to see many third parties. Yeah.
I would hold that thought until September. I want to wait before I totally say, you know what, probably all gimmicks. No one's going to use that.
They are great gimmicks. I love them. It would
they're great gimmicks. Yeah. Yeah, I want to see what Sucker Punch uses.
Developers want to use industry standards. So it is the industry standard is at the moment Dolby. So they will optimize their game for Dolby Atmos and try to convert it into the Tempest engine.
So what I can say there is what I think PlayStation is doing, and if we're gonna play the rumor report, is the rumor on the street is Microsoft's trying to knock on third-party doors. And nobody's answering because PlayStation knocked on them before. And I think what we're going to see when it comes to the indie side is seeing how they innovate, with Shuhei behind the helm, buying out indie experiences to practice the haptic feedback, to practice that Tempest sound. Indies are the people that are usually bringing the innovation to the gaming sphere. So if they can inspire larger developers, that's probably PlayStation's hope, with the fact that let's be real. If, let's just say, they get some type of crazy exclusives in not just the next 6 months, but we're also talking 2 to 3 years, I would not be surprised if there's just like, hey, throw in the Tempest sound. Hey, throw in this, and throwing in an extra, $50 million to spicing up the pot. If they're spending close to $1 billion, they want to make sure that these experiences you can't get on the Xbox side. And so that's what I'm thinking might be the case.
We'll see exactly what third-party games that they're going to be looking to lock down, and how much money it's actually going to cost Sony to do that. I will say this, and this is kind of like the kind of pushback on your point, Joe.
Sure.
Let's not fake the funk. PlayStation gamers are full of shit because they push the power narrative right up the ass of Microsoft the entire generation with 2 blades of grass. Let's not forget.
What if I told you
1080p makes you a better gamer? Let's not forget that.
What if I told you that gamers are all full of shit, man? Like
they can be, but more so PlayStation gamers, especially when they think they have an advantage. Again, I'm not trying to pick on a particular bunch of people, but I'm going to say I have to call a spade here. Yeah, well, I mean, but
because you gotta maybe at the end of the day, power doesn't matter really that much. Everybody wants to say that they have the most power, but really and ultimately, like I've said from day one of being on this podcast, power ultimately does not matter as much as people think it does. Price does, where your friends play, the games. That's what matters, not power.
And that's the truest point. There's a reason why the Xbox One X is discontinued and not the Series S, or sorry, One S. Right? Power is awesome, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you I wouldn't want the PS5 to be the most powerful console. It's not. All gamers are full of shit. I got my first death threat ever by a Nintendo guy because I said Labo was going to fail. So honest to goodness, there's trash everywhere. If I wanted to just take a look at one ecosystem because they prefer a different box than me and just call them, awful, fine. But what we have to find is the conversations like these where they're constructive.
And actually, I will go off that real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
You have to realize how many Marios have we got? How many Zeldas have we got? Nintendo gamers, they love their games, and I don't hate them for it. But for the love of God, everybody calls out Xbox for having another Halo or Gears. But them games got 10, 15, 20 different variants.
And the reason as to why is because when you take a look at Breath of the Wild, this game, let's talk about frame rates. Let's talk about the lack of 1080p. Let's talk about it. That game changed the way that we're going to view open world games forever. That's a blueprint.
You know what? A perfect example is Grounded, dude.
Yeah.
I have so many people that are enjoying the hell out of that game. And you
Yep.
know what? Yes, it might be a niche in the community, but there are so many people that are enjoying the hell out of that game. And
Yep.
it's in freaking preview, dude.
Yeah,
And I mean,
It's not a
take a look
full
at Sea of
release.
Thieves. I keep on going back to Sea of Thieves, absolutely loving it. And I say it all the time. Every time I look at the water, I'm like, man, wait till ray tracing. Wait till we see this next gen water, what it's going to look like. Like, there's beautiful things everywhere. And when you take a look at those games, they're not the most graphically demanding games ever. They're just really fun experiences. And I think we get lost in the weeds and get lost in the bullshit of like, whose dick's bigger? When at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's the motion of the ocean, baby. So
you
really,
went there, but
yeah, man,
I
listen,
actually love it.
it is what it is. It's about the experiences, and I think all three of them are doing great jobs and doing different things as well. You know,
And you know what? At the end of the day, if you want a good single player experience, go to PlayStation. I have no problem with that. Absolutely no problem.
If you want killer multiplayer features and actual like, you know, like being able to return a digital product, you go to Microsoft. Like, it's like, you know, it's just obvious.
Look, I want to say this. This has been a very powerful show. This is show we're already 2 hours past the initial runtime, which is at 2:15. And I'll say this: if you are someone that wants all the experiences and you can afford it and it's in your budget, then you buy all three consoles and you support everything and you play. You take a like myself. The Xbox is my main hub of play. I play all third-party games, all second-party games, and all first-party games. Sony's machine, strictly exclusives. Nintendo's machine, strictly exclusives. Now, if someone else, I know a lot of people that do the exact opposite. They only use Xbox for first-party stuff. That's fine. There hasn't been a lot of it in the last couple of years, but there's been quite enough that kept me excited as a fan. I'll say this: everyone is going to have their opinion. Next generation is going to be fantastic for everyone. If you have one particular console that you support and it's the only one you support, I am sure that if you're buying an Xbox Series X for power, you're going to get it. If you're buying this the PlayStation 5 for first-party games, you're going to get it. If you're buying Nintendo for whatever Nintendo does in their first-party games, you're going to get it. But listen, this has been great. I want to get everyone out of here. But before I do, I have to catch up on some of these massive super chats that have come in. And we have one from Everborn Saga who drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, everyone just assumes Sony has their ducks in a row. But the pandemic has affected everyone. To quote Mike Tyson, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. That's a good one. Black Rider drops a very generous $5 super chat and say, Halo delay is fine. Seriously, who won't be playing Cyberpunk 2077 anyway? That's very true. Y9 Power drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, the Sony fans want us to STFU about 12 teraflops. Have to wait 5 years. Yeah. Well, no, this is earlier. Okay. We'll have to wait 5 years because we kept hearing 1080p makes you a better gamer. They sure can dish it. And I got to admit that is a little bit true. I mean, we've had that thrown in the face for many years. About
who said that? Was that like an executive that said 1080p makes you better?
Yes, it was you. Yoshida. You're a very good friend.
Shoo, what's up, dude?
Yeah.
Eagles giving me soccer tips.
Another $5 super chat says machine learning AI graphics is a feature that matters for the consoles. Then there is 4K narrative talk will stop. I want ray tracing and 60 FPS and the AI graphics up. And I think you're definitely going to get that and you're going to get that on the Xbox. They've already confirmed it. So it's going to be tremendously amazing when we can actually get these consoles in our hands. We also have a few coming in at the back end. We have, so I got Y9 Power, and we have one just coming in from I Wonder Gaming, drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, I think Microsoft should have waited to demo Series X optimizations. They did it so early in the year, and now it has been forgotten. Well, that's what that's what this hardware event, the rumored hardware event, was supposed to be. From what I heard, and I heard it from a very good source, that they were going to show 3 big games running on the Series X, as well as potentially 2 third-party games. Now, I don't know if the Halo delay has caused them to move their plans. Now we're hearing it's going to be in September. I don't know if that's because Sony didn't announce anything, in August like they were supposed to. Remember, we were hearing Sony was going to do a big show in August, and we were going to get price, we were going to get release date, we were going to get when we can pre-order it, and that didn't transpire. So again, the game of chicken continues. But listen, let's get everybody on out of here. I want to say thank you to the 450 plus people that tuned in for today's show. That is fantastic. I want to thank everybody for the outstanding generosity through the super chats. You guys and gals are incredible, and it is truly and honestly greatly appreciated. Zemi Games, you, my friend, are been busy. Not only are you going to be my assistant when I get hired by Microsoft, but you are a chef in the making. You have launched a new channel, Cooking with Zemi, which is amazing. And you also have your outstanding regular YouTube channel. Tell everyone about those two places where they can check Zemi Games out, and also where they can follow you on social media.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So on YouTube, I actually have two channels. One's called Zemi Games, where I do a bunch of gaming content, gaming news, reviews, tutorials, all sorts of stuff like that. And then I also have a new second YouTube channel called Zemi Eats, where I'm doing cooking recipes, food reviews, like food hacks, just all sorts of things around culinarily. And
your first video was hilarious, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, my first video is a 2-ingredient pizza crust that you actually make this pizza crust out of Greek yogurt and flour, and a bunch of other YouTubers have done it before, but I really wanted to, give my little shot at it, and it actually really surprised me how well it came out. So if you want a great recipe for the easiest 2-ingredient pizza crust recipe ever, definitely go check out that video. Also on Twitter, you guys can follow me at Zemi Games. I post all the typical stuff that you would expect me to post, but also my DMs are always open, and I always look forward to any community interaction. So on today's show, if you heard something that you liked, maybe you heard something that you hated, either way, feel free to send me a DM. I once again, I really enjoy talking to community people and hearing different opinions, because I definitely think it helps shape opinions of my own. And then also, I just recently created a Twitch channel where I'm doing all of my Let's Plays and just gameplay stuff. You can follow that just by searching Zemi_games on Twitch. Tonight, I will actually be streaming The Infectious Madness of Dr. Deckard starting at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So definitely stop by and say hi if that's your type of thing as well. And boom, thank you so much. We need to talk about how much I'm going to make whenever I'm your assistant, though.
Well, yes, we'll talk dollars and cents.
We'll do that after the show.
Yeah. Mr. Badbit, you were down. You were low when you started this, and you were ready to jump off a building with your PlayStation pick towards the end. And I absolutely love it, my friend. Listen, I put, I don't know if you saw it, I dropped your link for the latest trophy room into the chat because it was well deserving of it, because quite frankly, you are someone that most of the community truly enjoys listening to, because you know what? You like to have fun. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone about the outstanding trophy room, but more importantly, why don't you pimp your new video that you put out just the other day? As a matter of fact, I'm going to drop it into the chat once again.
So you can find me over at Bad Big Games. We're doing some renovations to the channel. Hopefully a new video up on Monday, but it's usually where we talk about all things game news, reviews, unboxings. If you like, Mortal Shell, like Sin Vendetta, check out the channel in a few weeks. It's going to be dope. Also more awesome surprises coming in. I can't really talk about it, but it's exciting. You can find the trophy room, the video version right now, just launched on YouTube at Bad Big Games, and on podcast services, whether that's Apple Podcasts, whether that's Spotify, wherever you get your RSS feeds, wherever you get your podcasts. And we're doing something right now, and I'm willing to bend a little bit here. Okay. We're doing a thing where if you rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, only 5 stars, no, nothing lower, nothing higher, 5 stars, your first PS5 game is on us. This is an Xbox show, though. Why would I want to do that? So let's put an asterisk. If we get to 100 reviews on iTunes, 5-star reviews on iTunes, we're gonna put them all in a little vat. We're gonna spin it around. Your first next generation game is on us.
Oh, so I like what you did right there.
Yeah, no, ooh, it's gonna be fun. So yeah, go over, rate us 5 stars. It really does help us out. And yeah, please let me know how you liked our episode, because we usually when Trophy Room, we do not talk about Xbox. It's like they don't even exist. So when we're talking about Halo Infinite, we are trying to do it as
You're a
respectful.
Halo fan through and through,
Yes.
dude. Let's call a spade to spade. You are a Halo fan through
He
and
is
through.
a more Halo fan than I am. There you go.
Oh wow! So yeah, let us know how I did there. Yeah, and there you go. That's all I got. Oh, Mr. Badbit on Twitter. There you go. Grow my ego more.
Let's get him to 2,000 followers so he can now step on people as he's walking over a puddle.
I'm like, don't you know who I am?
All right. Well, next up, we can have Crispy Bomb. Listen, dude, you are obviously not only a part of today's show, you're going to be a part of tomorrow's Breakfast with Boom, because you are a regular panel member, but you are also part of the next podcast. Another very busy individual. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they could potentially get cut in half with you by a chainsaw on Xbox Live, and check you out on other shows and follow you on social media.
I King David, bro, love you, bro. A panel chat, dude. Come on, man. This was a great conversation. I always enjoy it. It's at Crispy Bomb on Twitter. You can find me actually 7 p.m. tonight, because we have moved next podcast.
That's right. You moved to Thursdays.
Tonight, 7 p.m. So if you want a double dose of Crispy, let's go, baby. Oh, you want a triple dose? Breakfast with Boom tomorrow. And, of course, shout out to Graphic God, Retro Renegades. Graphic God is the man.
Yes,
XboxGamerPicks.com.
Yes.
And you know what? Just hit him up. Hit his email, his DM on Twitter. The guy will help you make a gamer pick like mine, like Boom's, like whoever else has had gamer picks. He is an incredible person, and he is also willing to work with you.
Yeah,
trust me. So hit that guy up. He is an incredible person, and hopefully, I understand we're halfway into a really great podcast, in RDX, but at the end of the day, dude, you got a whole hour before and you can enjoy our content, because we're very different than what we do here. What I even do on, at 7 p.m. tonight, we don't have topics. We talk games, and they literally play games live. And they're mostly retro, or at least, from the 360 area, something like that. So, there's multiple people that are a part of that podcast, and I always enjoy doing it. But please hit up Graphic God if you want a gamer pick like mine, man. Awesome show. I love it. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for being here. And as you can see, I put up his advertisement on the screen for you to either take a picture of or take note of. It's at graphic_god and XboxGamerPicks.com. And of course, he does graphics, he does banners, he does logos, intros, and he also does t-shirts. So hit him up for one of those unbelievably originally crafted artworks that he does. Next up, and obviously we talked about him quite a bit because his video was amazing. Archimedes, you brought a lot to the table. Your technical knowledge is second to none. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, potentially have a thought-provoking conversation, and also check out your outstanding YouTube channel.
Well, before I do that, I want to thank you and the panel for a fantastic show. I had really a blast today. It was great. Flap, it's been the first time with you on a podcast, but it's been amazing.
It's been
Thank
fun.
you, guys. So, you can check out my channel at Boxenberger, basically everywhere, PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, Twitter, and of course on YouTube, where you can find the latest video about the marketing situation of Xbox, but also a lot of other interesting videos. And if you like the content, I would appreciate a sub. I'm trying to make my way to the 1,000 subs. So yeah, definitely check that out. And thanks again for having me on the show.
Well, it's always great to have you a part of the panel, dude. Obviously, I think you bring a lot to the table, and we're all glad to hear what you have to say. And certainly, no way least, someone making his debut not only on the Double Barrel Gaming Network, but also on this particular Xbox Factor program. Flap, obviously, you are new to the community, but I think that you do have podcasting skills that are worth listening to. Like I said earlier, I listened to your latest episode, and it was fantastic. And I encourage everyone to not only check it out, but subscribe to his YouTube channel. Why don't you do us a favor and not only tell us about that YouTube channel, but where can people follow you on social media?
Oh, thanks, Boom. Yeah, so we host it's myself and Puxley. We host a weekly podcast talking all things gaming, Xbox-centric, but we cover lots of things. We have some gameplay going on at the same time, normally covering a current game. I had an absolute blast playing an hour's worth of Grounded to get some footage for that. I love that game. I think it's so cool. So we're Green Pass Gaming. You can find us on YouTube under Green Pass Gaming, or you can chat to us on Twitter at Green Pass Gaming, or talk to me personally at Flap2, PHLAPP. Trying to get some community interaction going as well. On our podcast this Sunday, which goes out on 5 p.m. UK time, which I believe is 12 noon Eastern. We've got a guest it's our first guest, and he's certainly no stranger to this show because we've got VJ coming on.
That's great.
Nice. Really excited to have that. We had a bit of a chat the other night, and so between me, Pux, and VJ, it worked really well. Really pleased with I'm really excited to see how that's going to go. So if you want to join us, you're more than welcome. Would love to have as many people listening as possible, and we'll see you there.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that. And yes, VJ is an up-and-coming podcaster, someone that has been on this program numerous times, and also brings a tremendous amount of a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the gaming universe in many aspects that are just beyond picking up a controller. I want to thank everybody for being here. Of course, I want to thank the entire panel for spending an additional 30 minutes and talking about what we do and love the best, and that is gaming. And I'm going to close out the show with something that it's important to me. Hopefully, it will be important to you. And it's something that my dad taught me when I was a kid. He said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you, you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.